he as the forgotten Beatle anyway? Was it Ringo? Was it George? Sure as hell wasn't Paul or John. It was on this day in 1988 that George Harrison, that is, first topped the U.S. singles charts with that song, Got My Mind Set on You. I don't think I had to tell you the name of the song. I mean, it starts off that way. But more than 2 decades, almost a full quarter century after the Beatles, of which George was a part, of course, after they were topping the charts, George Harrison, as a solo act, did the same thing. The song actually was originally recorded by James Ray back in 1962, always had been a favorite of George's, and he just kind of hung on to it until the time was right. And that time was on this day, January the 16th, 1988, a number one song for George Harrison. 6 minutes after 9 on this Thursday morning, the 16th of January, 2025. Welcome to the program. Thank you very much for being a part of it. We really do appreciate that you take time out of your busy day to spend some of it with us. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about on the show today, not the least of which is the terrific time we had in Brantford last night at the Connor McDavid OHL Top Prospects game. What a thrill it was to have the chance to see the very best in the Ontario Hockey League on the ice at the Brantford and District Civic Centre. And if I may, this is not a lot of shade. It's only the tiniest bit. It's the smallest sapling casting a tiny little bit of shadow and shade on the city of Brantford. But that new arena can't come soon enough. I'll tell you what, we had the very best of the very best on the ice, and it was a great showcase for the Ontario Hockey League. And I know the city and the organization, the Brantford Bulldogs, are trying their best with what they've got. But, oh boy, that little, and I emphasize the little arena, has a few warts. But we all made it happen. What mattered was the game on the ice, and it was a terrific showcase for the league. And yes, despite the sale earlier this week being announced, the Brantford Bulldogs are staying. It was made clear at a media conference yesterday. A 15-year lease agreement with the Bulldogs at that new arena, which can't be built soon enough, and then 5 5-year extensions. So if they're all taken, those 5-year extensions, it'll be a 40-year future for junior hockey in the city of Brantford. All right, let's get to our Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. Number 1, our region has seen an increase in organized crime, and Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell is also concerned about gun violence.
5 homicides last year. 4 of those 5 involved firearms in Waterloo Region, and we've seen 21 shootings over the past 3 years in Waterloo Region. So the level of gun violence continues to be of great concern and focus for us.
Those stats shared during a police services board meeting yesterday. Now police have a new operational plan to combat it. We'll be talking more about that because some of the stats are rather disturbing. We'll do that during our Talkback Hour today at noon. Number 2, Mark Carney expected to announce his federal Liberal leadership bid today in Edmonton, the city where he grew up. Do you think he wants to kind of make himself more appealing to Western Canada? Maybe. The Liberals will elect their new leader on March the 9th, marking the official end of Justin Trudeau's prime ministership. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, U.S. President Joe Biden delivered an ominous warning during his farewell address last night.
And that's the dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. The dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit.
Biden said the wealthy are not paying their fair share in the United States. Number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says a last-minute crisis is holding up a Gaza ceasefire. The Israeli cabinet was set to ratify the deal today, but Netanyahu accuses Hamas of reneging on parts of the agreement. And number 5, 3 Kitchener Rangers shone at the Connor McDavid OHL Top Prospects game last night in Brantford.
Now it's Luca Romano with a chance. Romano scores! A Kitchener Ranger with the first goal of the first ever Connor McDavid OHL Top Prospects game.
Yes, sir. Luca Romano opening the scoring for the West. Adrian Miseljevic scored the final goal for the West. So a couple of Rangers bookending the Western Conference scoring. And oh yeah, along the way, Cameron Reed picked up 3 assists and was named the player of the game for OHL West last night at the Connor McDavid OHL Top Prospects game. What a night for your Kitchener Rangers, who, by the way, are back in regular season action tomorrow versus the Flint Firebirds, And just like we had the game last night in Brantford, we'll have that game at the Memorial Auditorium tomorrow night. All right, as I mentioned, it is a very busy show today, and we're even, not for the first time, but this is something I rarely do. But how can you not dive into the fashion world when the Premier makes a fashion statement heard across the country? What's with that hat? We'll find out coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
All around the country, everyone has their concerns, their jurisdictions from coast to coast to coast. But there's one thing that's more important than jurisdictions, is standing up for the country. Country comes first over anything, and we're going to continue to fight against these tariffs.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That, of course, is Ontario Premier Doug Ford, just ahead of yesterday's First Minister's meeting, talking tough, as he has been since the threat of 25% tariffs was leveled towards Canada, and it would, of course, impact Ontario. But it's not so much what Premier Ford said on this particular occasion. It's what he was wearing. He stood at a podium in front of a national television audience wearing a baseball cap. The Premier of Ontario in his suit and tie and a baseball cap. But it's what that cap said that has caught everybody's attention. The cap said Canada is not for sale. And wouldn't you know that it was made by an Ontario-based company, and we're going to learn more about it right now, is Liam Mooney, who is the CEO and strategic lead at Jack Pine Dynamic Branding in Ottawa, joins the program. Liam, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm amazing, Mike. The last 24 hours has been truly wild. Not even 24 hours at this point, 22. It's been mind-boggling.
I can only imagine. So let's start there if we can. What happened to your business when the Premier appeared in that hat?
An immediate overwhelm of telephone calls, emails, text messages, social media messages from every corner and coast of the country. People I've known for years, haven't spoke to in decades. And strangers who've all of a sudden became best friends. It has been a truly amazing and fun experience.
How did that hat get onto Ontario Premier Doug Ford's head?
We received a telephone call very early in the morning on Tuesday from a deputy chief of staff in the Premier's office, and they said, the Premier needs 2 of these hats tomorrow, and we need them today. He's going to be here in Ottawa for the First Minister's meeting. And they said, can you get them to us? I said, yes. I hung up the phone, and we had to work really hard all day long, flat out, with a number of Ottawa-based Ontario companies to make it happen. And we went from concept to on the Premier in literally 7 days. And so yesterday I had to zip around the entire, not yesterday, but on Tuesday, I had to zip around the entire city, working with all sorts of small local businesses that have been around for decades. in many cases to pull this off for the Premier. It was truly an honor and an amazing privilege to work with all of these groups. Sam Group gave us a special file for embroidery. We worked with Lids Canada at the Rideau Centre. MJ there and August helped me produce all the hats, and then I went to an amazing local business in the Byward Market here called Paper Papier to get a small thank you card for the Premier, hand wrote it, and then 7 o'clock that night dropped the hats off to the Premier staff here in Ottawa, and just put that love out into the universe, and had no expectation, no idea what was to come. Just we were told, like, the Premier is going to look at it in the morning, and we'll see what happens. And the rest, as they say, is history. But the history keeps evolving and it's growing.
So how did you feel when you saw the Premier standing in front of that national television audience yesterday wearing your hat?
Oh, my gosh, Mike. It was totally surreal and wild. Emma and I, our jaws were on the ground. Our golden retriever was extremely excited. And we just could not believe that it was actually real. In fact, a lot of our friends and clients were writing to us saying, this is AI, right? And of course, I had to write back and say, no, it's not AI. This is very, very real.
So when the Premier's office reached out and said, Premier Ford needs a couple of these hats, you had no idea that he was going to wear them or wear it like he did. It was just, okay, if the Premier wants a hat, of course he's going to get a hat.
Correct.
Yeah.
We had no clue. And yes. And then I believe I was told I haven't seen anything about what happened yesterday. I've been doing media across the country, around the world since that moment. So I haven't seen anything of what he's done. A couple things have come through text from a couple buddies, like it's been memed and that sort of thing out there. But like I've heard that he wore it around the city yesterday, and just truly an honor.
So you mentioned a moment ago, Liam, that this went from concept to onto the Premier's head in 7 days' time. Can you take us back to the concept? Where did the inspiration for the Canada is Not for Sale hat come from?
Absolutely. So last week, Premier Ford was on Fox television with Jesse Waters, and Premier was doing an amazing job standing up for Canada and protecting our interests in Ontario, and Jesse Water was getting a bit thorny, and he made an absolutely absurd statement, something to the effect of, you ask any other country around the world, and they would say it would be a privilege to be an American, and like, why would you say no to us? Like, that's crazy. And Emma and I just looked at each other, and we sort of jumped out of our sofa. We said, you know what? It is a privilege to be Canadian. I don't know what this guy's talking about. You look around the world of nations, and you ask any other country, would you like to have Canada as your neighbor, as your bordered friend, trusted partner in the world? Every country would say yes, unequivocally, immediately. So for them to say that is so disrespectful, so disconnected from reality, that we just felt like we had to take some small act of patriotism to respond to this big and absurd statement and threat from the American president. So we hopped online, we applied our design, strategy, branding skills, and we worked with a local, amazing, global now company, Shopify. We set up an online store, and later that night we had our first sale from ourselves, and a couple of hours later from a client of ours, and then we saw in the order manuscript that we got one from president of Shopify, Harley Finkelstein, and he mentioned it on X a couple of days later in a post, and it was sort of at that point we realized, like, oh, maybe there's something here. And we're going to just sort of see where this goes. And any opportunity or anything that can happen, we're going to say yes, and we're going to see what happens. But I could tell you right now, Mike, we had no idea we'd be here in 7 days.
You realize, of course, that Jack Pine Dynamic Branding has now just put on a master class in branding, right? Like, just bottle this and sell it. You'll never work again.
Well, I can tell you right now, and all the folks across this country that run apparel companies and make the products that people wear across this country, people in heavy industry that wear high-vis and stuff like that, the work that goes into serving those customers and making those products is very serious. I got home after spending any minute I had between interviews yesterday responding to customers. I got home to over 500 emails after responding to like 200 or 300 over the course of the day. And it's messages of support. It's customers saying, hey, I need to change my address. It's customers saying, hey, I bought 4, but I now want to add 2 more to my order. Can I change it? It's totally amazing, and it's been a lot of fun, Mike.
I can only imagine how much fun. And the fact that you're still coherent all these hours, like not even 24 full hours later after this onslaught of media interviews, customer requests, etc. It's great, obviously, that the Premier of Canada's largest province puts a hat like this on his head. But I have a feeling, Liam, there are about 40 million other people in this country that may be interested in doing the same, putting such a hat on their head. Can we do that?
Absolutely. Strongandfreehat.ca.
Strongandfreehat.ca, and we too can look like Premier Ford.
You got it.
I just love this story so much. Kudos to you and Emma and the entire team at Jack Pine, and thanks very much for squeezing in yet another media interview with us this morning.
Thank you kindly, Mike. A real privilege and joy. Thank you so much.
Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too.
Liam Mooney is the CEO and strategic lead at Jack Pine Dynamic Branding. Just a little company in Ottawa that came up with the idea that landed on Premier Doug Ford's head. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. It is a very busy show today. Between 11 and 11:30, we'll take a closer look at our health and how we're supporting organizations in our community that protect our health. The usual features at 11:30, the Flipside. We'll talk about brushes with fame. Gary Chalk will be here at 10:30 for Living Retired. I'm going to try something new, bravely breaking new ground on the show today with something called Throwback Thursdays, and we'll remember those places that we used to shop. That's coming up at 10. And right after this update from the 570 News Center, Phase 2 of light rail transit is back in the news, or will it just be rapid transit and buses? The business case for Phase 2 of LRT is being built. We'll update you as to where we are at coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. The future of light rail transit came up at a committee meeting of our regional government earlier this week. And by future, I mean Phase 2. That is the phase that will take us from Fairview Mall in Kitchener into the Galt area and Ainslie Street in Cambridge, finishing off the full connection from the south of the region in Cambridge to the north of the region in Waterloo. But one councillor who represents Cambridge on regional council was a little bit concerned with what she heard at that committee meeting earlier this week. That councillor is Pam Wolf, who joins the program this morning. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning, Mike.
You sounded concerned. In fact, you described this as kind of going back to square one when it comes to light rail and service to Cambridge. What did you mean by that?
Well, as you know, we've been planning this for many, many years, and the promise to Cambridge was for Phase 2, the ION, to be completed after Phase 1, which we have in Kitchener and Waterloo. So we've planned the route, we've had public consultation, we've bought land, we finally decided where the terminus will be. We've gone through so many steps. And the next step is the business plan, which we're going to present to the provincial and federal governments. Well, I was very surprised and disappointed to learn that the business plan would present 3 options. Status quo, which most plans always do, which is the do-nothing plan, the ION, Phase 2, light rail, and a rapid bus plan. And that's what threw me, because we've already gone through the public consultation. I'm sure you were around when we did it for the original ION. We looked at rapid bus, for the entire region. But it was determined by the public that if we wanted to get people out of their cars, you needed something sexy, like a light rail. You needed something different, modern. And so that's why we chose light rail. And this whole report actually showed all the benefits that have come to Kitchener and Waterloo in the Central Transit Corridor, which is along the light rail, because those things did happen. We had, so much development. We've had a 20% increase in ridership, et cetera. So I was taken aback that we would present a bus route after all we've done.
So is your concern then, Pam, that if a rapid bus route is part of the business plan, upper levels of government that we would present this plan to in order to secure funding might say, well, just do rapid buses, we'll only fund that?
Yes. I mean, it's tempting in this climate, right, economic climate, to choose a cheaper option. This also has to go through regional council again. And we've gone through so many different votes, and every time you're voting on it, there's a danger that you can lose. So after going through all of this, it'll come back in the fall to the regional council, and we'll be given the three options. Now, they'll have a preferred option, and also going through to the public. And I think that sometimes how a question is put to people makes a huge difference. So if I said to you, do you want light rail, which will cost, let's say, $4 billion, or do you want bus, which might be a quarter the cost? Someone might say, I don't think we can afford the $4 billion. All right, let's just do the bus. But they forget that, did you know that if we do a light rail down Hespeler Road, for instance, that transit corridor that's being designated, we will most probably get $5 to $10 billion worth of development, as did Kitchener and Waterloo. So they don't sort of add the extras, less pollution, more ridership, and connectivity. For instance, if you take a bus, if we put more buses in Cambridge to connect to the Ion, you have to get out and transfer. If we wanted to connect to the train, all of these different things, it's a transfer. And once you put in a transfer, you lose some of your desirability. So it's a complex, let's say, situation, and often a question is asked in very simple terms.
Would it be fair to say then, Pam, as I listen to you describe this, that you are absolutely in favor of the $4.6 billion option to extend light rail?
Yes. And I think that the region should remember their promise to Cambridge. I don't think, it's been a while, but Cambridge paid for the construction of the Ion in Kitchener and Waterloo with the promise that was phase 1 and phase 2 would continue. At the moment, Kitchener and Waterloo aren't planning on paying for the phase 2. We're planning on asking the provincial and federal governments to pay. Now, what we've seen in the other parts, excuse me, my voice, of the province is that the federal and provincial governments are paying for light rail. So we're saying, why shouldn't they pay for it in Cambridge? We're one of the largest cities in Ontario that doesn't have adequate transportation. We don't have a GO bus. We don't have a GO train. We don't have a rapid bus. We don't have an LRT. So, we are ripe to get this kind of service, and we think we have a very good case to make with the provincial and federal governments.
What are the next steps from here, Pam? I understand by May the business plan or the business case will be ready?
Yes. So once the business case passes regional council, it then goes to, I think, Metrolinx or for the province and federal government, and asking for funding for the LRT. So then it's a matter of, also waiting for them to be ready to put money into transportation, and depending on the political climate at the time, whether we get it or don't.
Interesting times ahead. And, it's not lost on me that to build rapid transit, which is what light rail would be, it takes an awfully long time. It's a very slow process, isn't it?
Yes. I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned as a politician since I've been I'm a city councillor for 16 years, and now is how long things take. Things that you think should, this should be done in a year, it takes 3, that kind of thing. And, it's good that we do consult the public, but sometimes I think we spend too much time consulting, and we need to have more action.
I could not agree more with that last statement, Pam. I appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Okay, thank you.
Pam Wolf is a regional councillor who represents Cambridge. I think we're all going to agree that we wished the wheels of bureaucracy turned a little faster. But here's the thing with rapid transit, and I'm just going to say rapid transit instead of LRT into Cambridge. I think Pam's absolutely right that Cambridge deserves rail. I remember those days of finishing phase 1, and people in Cambridge were up in arms saying, we don't want to pay for Kitchener's and Waterloo's trains because the regional tax base funded it, save for the townships, but the 3 cities funded it, and Cambridge isn't getting it. And I was joking back then that when we build phase 2, I'm going to go into Cambridge and say, I'm not paying for Cambridge's trains, even though we've kind of taken the loan out and already had them pay for ours here in Kitchener and Waterloo. Anyway, I do think Cambridge deserves rail. But my goodness, is this a long and drawn-out process? The environmental studies have been done. The public consultation has been completed. It's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross. Let's put it that way. And when you consider a $4.6 billion price tag, not that we're asking for the money tomorrow, but I don't know that the economic climate is going to improve to such a point in the next 18 months that putting such a project before upper levels of government is going to be met with very receptive ears. We're talking $4.6 billion, 5 times what phase 1 cost. That's what phase 2 is going to cost. What do you think about phase 2 of light rail transit? Have we learned any lessons from phase 1? Kind of like building it at grade with traffic. Oh my goodness gracious. That has been more nightmarish than I ever would have imagined it would be. We do not seem to do well, do we, when it comes to navigating our streets that also have trains running on them. But is rail worth it? $4.6 billion bucks? Or maybe you want to go back to rapid buses. I hope the region stays firm on rail, but here we are. Your thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio.
I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned as a politician is how long things take. Things that you think should, this should be done in a year, it takes 3, that kind of thing. It's good that we do consult the public, but sometimes I think we spend too much time consulting, and we need to have more action.
Oh, the memories it brings back of light rail phase 1, which was from initial announcement to completion, about 15 years in total. And there was a time there in the middle where it almost got derailed, pun intended, because it came back to regional council for a second passing vote under threat of referendum. Bring this back to the public for a referendum was then Waterloo Mayor Brenda Halloran's suggestion. And it brought it back to a vote by regional council to essentially approve it for a second time. That was in and around 2010. So anyway, phase 1 got done. Phase 2 is going to cost $4.6 billion. And regional councillor Pam Wolf joins us to build her case for why we need rail, not rapid bus. But rapid bus will be a part of that business case presented to upper levels of government when we go to them seeking funding. Let's go to the phones, hear from you on this issue. Lloyd, good morning.
Yes, far as I'm concerned, I think Cambridge can consider itself lucky if they don't get it, to be dodging a bullet. I think it's absolutely horrendous, the amount of expense it took to make it over here. And look at all the problems you have with it. I lived in Toronto for 60 years. There's more accidents between cars and streetcars in the last couple of weeks that I've experienced all my life in Toronto. There's something, they laid it down improperly. It's not always the driver's fault completely. It's where they put it. And also, it's a huge expense. I'd like to know where the money went. Somebody's gotten rich off of it somehow, and there's nothing new about it. Streetcars are 19th century technology. Look at the way there's an accident somewhere. The streetcars can't circumvent the accident. A friend of mine was very pro-streetcar. The first time he ever went on it, him and his wife, they had to get off the streetcar and take a bus. A bus came to the rescue in order for them to complete their trip. It's an idiotic thing to have. It's going to cause chaos running it down their main street, Hespeler Road. It's stupid. It's chaotic. It's 19th century technology, and people are getting rich off it somewhere. I'd like to know where all the money goes.
All right, Lloyd. I can tell you, we shared this last week, and Lloyd's not far off. Transit projects cost 60% more per kilometer in Canada than they do anywhere else in the world. Tell me somebody ain't getting fat off that. Paul, good morning.
Hey, we're going to do predictions for 2025.
Okay. We already did them. Where were you when we did them?
Well, actually, I made this prediction a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Back, I guess they've got the teleport machines almost perfected because I said a long time ago that teleport machines would be developed and effective before Cambridge ever got the LRT, and that's a good thing. We don't need that LRT. I still have a sticker on my front door that says no LRT through Preston. This is good news that they're going to cancel it, and it's just a white elephant that Ken Sealing is still hanging in there trying to say, hey, look what I did to the region.
Well, he's not saying that. I haven't heard from Ken on this particular issue for a long time. I always thought, though, that really light rail down King Street through Preston wouldn't have been the worst thing, right? And then take it down to where were we going to make our turn to get it over to Hespeler. I'm forgetting. But the route that it's going to take is Eagle Street to Hespeler. And then, listen, you think of all that development, the tens of billions of dollars of development along Hespeler Road, if you've got a train running down it. It makes some sense. It really does from where I'm sitting. But $4.6 billion to get her done. That, as they say, is a spicy meatball. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Frank tweets me at Farwell_WR. Does he tweet me or X me these days? I haven't the foggiest, but anyway. Frank says, Mike, if Waterloo Region is not willing to pay for light rail to Cambridge, we should get our tax money back from paying KW's rail. Just my thoughts. You know how it is, though, Frank, right? It's like, I've been thinking about this so much with the impact that the carbon tax has had on the price of groceries, for example. And I know there's some greedflation probably in there as well, but we can connect the dots, right, to the increased costs for farmers, to the increased costs for shipping, to the increased costs for us. Even if we take the carbon tax away, those prices aren't coming down. Like once they've got you paying a certain price, you're going to keep paying that certain price. Just like taxes. They don't give them back. That's how this world works. There's only one consumer and there's only one taxpayer. It's always us. Okay, we're going to start, speaking of paying for things. I know this will be more fun. I've had this in my mind for quite some time, and I'm finally getting off my derriere to add it to the show. Thursdays, Throwback Thursdays. This community has so many great stories within it, and I'd like to try to highlight some of them. So in the next 30 minutes, we're going to learn from you, where was, past tense, the best place to shop in this region. And we're going to use the closing of a shop in Cambridge as our inspiration, because as you probably know, Etc. Linens and Gifts on King Street in Preston is closing at the end of the month. I had the opportunity to catch up with the delightful owner of that store last week. You'll hear from her, and then we'll talk about those places that we used to shop. Throwback Thursdays coming to your Mike Farwell show right after this on 570 News Radio. I have been wanting to do this on the show for a while, and so finally here we are. And really, it was just a matter of me getting off my derriere. I'm still working out some of the kinks, but I've got a few ideas in the works that will help us on a weekly basis on Thursday, because why not? Throwback Thursday. I think it was a thing on social media. It might still be. Regardless of that, we're going to do some Throwback Thursday content here on the program, because how much do we enjoy talking about the way things were, some of the places that we used to love to visit, be they restaurants, music venues, places for entertainment like the Eat and Putt. I could go on, and we will on Throwback Thursdays, and we'll get into some of the deeper history in this region as well, because it does have a rich history. How about the theft of the bust of Kaiser Wilhelm, one of the best stories from our local history ever. They threw it into the lake at Victoria Park. And rumor has it, it may have at one time been melted down to create napkin rings. These are the things we may uncover on future Throwback Thursdays here on the show. But today, it occurred to me, perhaps one of the best places to start would be in Cambridge, where Etc. Linens and Gifts on King Street in the Preston area is about to close its doors after 50 years. As you probably know, my beloved is a very proud Preston girl, and as soon as she heard the news, it brought back the memories of where she would go, picking up Christmas presents for her parents when she was a kid. You could go to the Giant Tiger, or you could go to Etc., and she would always choose local and go to Etc. It's been a fixture on King Street in Preston. So, last week, when I was on location at Cambridge Memorial Hospital on Friday, on the way home, it made perfect sense to stop into the store on King Street in Preston. And let me tell you, the place was bustling. I had to wait probably half an hour to get the chance to talk to Shirley, the owner of the store, because she was so busy working that till. And you should have seen her work it too. Like, incredible. Just her fingers were flying around that thing. It's a big 50% off sale as they close out and close down at the end of the month. The customers that Shirley had just served before we were able to chat had come in from Guelph because they heard the story on the news. They thought, we should check out this store. So they made the trip last Friday, and there they were. I thought this could give us some inspiration to share stories of the places that we used to, past tense, enjoy shopping. Etc. Linens and Gifts is not closed yet, but it will be closed at the end of the month. So we'll use this Throwback Thursday segment to think back on the places we used to love to shop in our community. But for now, let's hear from Shirley Bowman, the owner of Etc. Linens and Gifts, which is closing at the end of the month. I stopped into the store on my way home from Cambridge Memorial Hospital last week. How did this all start for you, Shirley?
My mom opened in 1975. After my father had died, my mother wanted to do something different. She ran the cafeteria at the Preston High School. That's what that lady was referring to, that most people knew Mrs. Thorman. And then she went and got her driver's license because she didn't have that. And then she drove to Toronto and then rented the store and then drove to Toronto and bought all the presents in the store. When she opened, she was a linen shop and shower curtains and Fieldcrest towels. And when we all sat around trying to think of the name for the store, my sister Helen and myself and my mom, Helen suggested that we call it Etc., which meant it would grow with the store, and it's true. Because as times changed, that we weren't selling shower curtains anymore, we're more of a gift shop and linens and that too. And then in 1985, I joined my mom, And then we worked together for a few years, and she retired and went off and was teaching quilting and things like that. So I've had the store ever since. My two boys, Sean and Colin, both of them worked in the store going through university and that. And right now my two granddaughters are 12 and 15, and they come in and help me, do after school and stuff like that too. So yeah, it's been nice, too. And I've been the coordinator of the business area, all these years too. And they hired me before I joined my mom. I was a purchasing agent at Genesco. And then when I left there, then the BIA was just starting, and they hired me to be the coordinator. So I've been doing that ever since too. So yeah,
interesting.
So the two don't go together. The store and the BIA don't go together. Yeah.
You talk about your grandchildren working here. So you're unemploying family member, Shirley.
That's what my son Colin says, too. And Sadie worked on Saturday, and she's 12, and she's just amazing, too. And then Emma now takes the bus home, and then her mom brings her in. She'll come in around 3 and work too, The two of them are really and it's really good exposure for them to work with people, to talk with people, too, and run the till and that too. So it's good, yeah. I'm looking forward to spending a lot more time with them too,
50 years in this spot.
In this location.
On King Street in Preston.
When my mom rented this store, it was Alex Forbes from Hesper, from the Forbes Estates, or from the mill that owned this building, and Canada Trust did all the management. And we've gone through lots of landlords since then too, too. But yeah, it's been same location all along, too.
What would you say about the change that you have seen out your front window over those 50 years?
Well, I was looking at Summers Menswear they were there 75 years or something like that. So it's only recently that changed, when it was Gatsby's and that too. When my mom opened in 75, Jacoby's was just closing, and Schultz's drugstore was just closing. So there's been a lot of those changes, there was a lot of jewelers and things like that, but the business area changes, and it morphs all the time into different businesses. And right now it's morphing into, more service and more gaming stores and things like that. It's just different, but it always changes over the years, too. But it's always full, too. And it's the restaurants. It seems to be the big thing right now, too. We have some amazing restaurants uptown.
I have had the privilege of standing beside you as you serve customer after customer after customer with such skill on this till, but also I can tell from your conversations, so many of these people. Tell me about the connection with the customers over the years.
A lot of the customers have been coming here for the last 50 years. I had someone come in the other day, and they had flown in from Vancouver, and the brother came in from California, and the door opened up, and she said, "Oh, it's the same lady," she said. And then she came over and said to me, she said, "When I was a little girl," she said, "my parents just lived uptown, or my grandparents and my mom. I would come in Christmas shop, you'd cut the tags off and keep them, and then my grandmother and my mom would come up and pay for my gifts." Those are the kind of stories that are just, they're heartwarming, too. Yeah. There's a real connection. People love their business area. Yeah.
You mentioned the time with the grandkids. Obviously, we talk about that a lot when we reach an opportunity to retire. But how are you feeling, Shirley? I mean, this is 50 years of your life.
I know, but it's been a wonderful part of my life, and I'm not dying, so I'm going to still be around, too. Yes, exactly. And I'm very involved in the business, area and stuff like that too. And I eat in all the restaurants and stuff like that too. So I'll still be around. Yeah. And I live right here. My car will still come here every day, too. So yeah.
Any other plans for retirement besides that extra time with family?
No, it's just I'm a busy, involved person. My daughter-in-law has already got me up for a fundraiser at her school where the kids go, too, and things like that. But I want to just take some time. I remember when my sister Helen retired, she said, "Don't commit to anything for 6 months and then just see, too." So the biggest adjustment is going to be my husband. He's been retired for 21 years, and to have me home all the time. So when I said, "Did you go for a walk today?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "I know you're lying." Now he's going to, too. So those are the changes, but it'll be all positive things.
What will you miss the most?
The people. Yeah, absolutely, is the interaction, the contact and stuff like that. I've been very fortunate to have people that have supported us for over 50 years. And it becomes like when they come in, their first names, they know your family, they know the connections and that too. But they're still here, like I'm still here too. So. Mm-hmm.
I've heard so many people talk about having heard this on the news. That's why they're here, for maybe one final gift.
Yes.
What's it been like since the news got out that you are closing up at the end of the month?
Take a look at my store. It looks like a bomb went off. Saturday, by the time Saturday came, it was like I worked when the store was closed, I worked all day Sunday, all day Monday just to get the store back so I could be open on Tuesday. But it's just my shelves are almost empty, too. It's been, which is rewarding in a way, too. I wanted to go 50 because I wanted my customers to get the benefit. I didn't want to drag it out. I wanted it over solid and a good, and that's exactly what's happened. So, yeah.
All right, excuse me, everybody, but do you think Shirley should keep this store open? Any chance of that happening, Shirley?
No, but I had a customer yesterday. He said, so once your store is cleared out, he said, just go to Toronto and refill it and then start again. And I said, no, thank you. I'm done. Yes, exactly.
Thank you very much for this, and thank you for 50 years on King Street.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, thank you.
And the crowd goes wild. There were some cheers in the store as we finished our conversation last Friday. A very busy place, Etc. Linens and Gifts on King Street in the Preston area of Cambridge, closing at the end of the month. So gone is another long-standing retailer, which made me think on this Throwback Thursday, where were the places we used to shop? And what was our favorite? If you answer Highway Market, of course you're absolutely right. But there must have been others. Surely there were. Let's have a little Throwback Thursday fun here on the program. The best place we used to be able to shop in the region of Waterloo. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Upon learning that Etc. Linens and Things in Cambridge was about to close its doors after 50 years, my beloved, a proud Preston girl, remembered the times she used to shop there as a kid, get mom and dad their Christmas presents and such. And I thought to myself, we're on to something here. So I stopped by the store to interview Shirley Bowman, who's absolutely delightful, and now 2 weeks away from the closure of her store on King Street in Preston. And it got me thinking for a Throwback Thursday idea about the places we used to shop. So keep the current spots out for now. Maybe that's a topic for another day. But on this Throwback Thursday, where were the best places that we used to shop? As a Kitchener kid, I remember Bud's in downtown Kitchener and those magical pneumatic tubes that took the receipts from the till to who knows where in the building. Gowdy's downtown. I remember Towers as one of the bigger box stores. Kmart in Waterloo as well. But I want to hear from you and the places you used to enjoy shopping. Let's go to the phones. Francis, good morning.
Yeah, I'll say ditto to all those spots, but my favorite was Central Meat Market when we were living in Kitchener.
Well, but it's still there, Francis. You could still go there anytime you want.
Yeah, well, it was really special when we went. My neighbors in Formosa used to work there.
I love it, Francis. And, we would go there too. And my poor mother, we would torture her as we walked the aisles because what we wanted to get on the way out and almost inevitably did was that little plastic-wrapped bunch of suckers. There were 5. We had 5 kids. It worked perfectly. My sister Luann loved the black licorice flavor, which I hated. So everybody got one that they liked. There was a little quibbling over who had to do the yellow or the green, but still, you buy them at the checkout and on your way. Joe, where was the best place to shop?
Well, there was more than one. You can't just say one. But downtown, when we went to St. Jerome's, as you well know, remember Woolco or Woolworth on King Street there?
Sure do. I sure do. The store is still there. It's under a different name now, though, but yep.
Yeah, you could get, fries in their crappy cafeteria, fries and gravy for, 45 cents or 40 cents or something.
I remember.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Big, good fries. And then Gowdy's, you already mentioned that. And then for food, we go to Dandy's. Remember Dandy's?
I remember Dandy's as well. You betcha.
They had the best onion rings on the planet and the best burgers, fire grilled burgers. And then lastly, the Chinese restaurant on Ontario or College Street, right down from Jerome's. That was the best place to go because they always served us beer, even with our Jerome's uniforms on, and they never asked for ID.
Shocking, Joe. Shocking that you found a way to get your beer before you were of age. Highway Market. Nobody has mentioned it. I mentioned it before the break. I mean, I would think clearly with its creaky floors was the ultimate place back in the day, right? Sean, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, Highway Market goes without saying. I used to love that place, like you said, with the creaky floors. Plus, when I used to use Pentax back in the film days, and they used to sell Pentax camera.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but other places I used to go. Remember Consumers Distributing?
Oh, another good one. Yeah.
I used to hate shopping, so that was like my go-to place for like Christmas and birthdays. I mean, it was so busy. I don't know how they went out of business. And another place I used to love was Miracle Martin. Remember the old John Galt Mall before it got
Of course.
transformed?
Yes.
I used to love Miracle Martin. And they had that little lunch counter in there. It was pretty cool.
There you go, Sean. Excellent. And Consumers Distributing. There was actually, I remember reading a story, I don't know, a year or two back, but it broke down how Consumers Distributing broke down. It was fascinating. And my best friend used to work at Consumers Distributing in Waterloo, the one I had forgotten about. I always remembered the one on Weber Street in Kitchener, across from where Highway Market used to be. Steve, good morning.
Good morning. How about Towers? And the other one is Robinson's Department Store downtown.
Robinson's Department Store, which was like the anchor tenant in the old King's College. King's Center Mall. Yeah. Which
That's
is
correct.
now Manulife.
Yeah, exactly. Manulife Center now. Okay, thanks. Have a good day.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate hearing from you. Yeah, Robinson's Department Store, another. And we could go into the downtown malls, right? Market Square, King Center in downtown Kitchener. And, the controversy. And where are those malls now? I mean, the buildings still stand, but not much shopping going on in them. We have now the more individualized storefronts. Throwback Thursday, finding out the best places we used to shop. Jason, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mike?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
I have a memory of me and my dad going to a place across from Highway Market as well. It's called Valdi's.
Oh, my gosh, Valdi's. I forgot all about it. Yes.
No bags, just cardboard boxes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good place to get your groceries.
Never.
Jason, thanks for that. Another great memory. Some of the places that we used to shop, etc. Linens and Gifts on King Street in the Preston area of Cambridge, closing at the end of this month. 2 more weeks to take advantage of that 50% off sale, most items in the store. But based on my time there last Friday, interviewing Shirley Bowman, the owner, that stuff is flying off the shelves, so get there before it's too late and give Shirley a fond farewell for 50 years of business in Preston. This is the Mike Farwell Show, some Throwback Thursday on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just ahead of our update at 10:30, squeeze in one more because it's too much fun. The places we used to shop on a Throwback Thursday. Mike, good morning.
Mike, what about Colonial Cookies? I remember going there as a young kid, the outlet.
Oh, yeah. You and me both. I would buy, because you could get cheaper cookies. Who didn't love that?
Yeah, you'd go down there with your mom or something. And don't forget the Bieber Lumber on Charles and in between Charles and King Street, and the old Canadian Tire where the Tim Hortons is, also on King Street.
You know what, Mike? Great memories. I forgot all about that Canadian Tire that used to be downtown. And across the street from that, oh my gosh, sports, but it has Cupolos back in the day, and it's still there, the source for sports, but it had a different name. Oh, totally blanking on it, but nonetheless, great examples there, Mike, on this Throwback Thursday. Thursdays also mean a little bit of humor with our humor columnist, Gary Chalk. New year, new goals for both Gary and I. We talk about that and more coming up with Living Retired on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling.
It was Sportco, by the way, across from that old Canadian Tire on King. Sportco, still their source for sports, downtown Kitchener. Sorry, it takes me a little longer when I stay up late traveling to Brantford to watch hockey games. Great hockey games, though. And speaking of Brantford, that's where the home offices of Gary Chalk are. our humor columnist who joins us with his Living Retired column, brought to life every Thursday morning at this time. I encourage you to visit livingretired.press. Check it out for yourself. And while you're there, just sign up for the weekly newsletter so you can get something funny in your inbox instead of something annoying like those memos from the boss. Mr. Chalk, good morning, sir.
Hey, Mike with a mic. How are you today?
I am excellent, thank you. How about yourself?
Well, not too bad. Boy, been a heck of a week for you.
It's been a little bit busy.
Yeah, you were here in Brantford last night for hockey. You did a couple other hockey games earlier, and then, of course, you on the weekend you were awarded the King Charles Medal.
Okay, easy now.
As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike.
Yeah.
As I understand it, was on the weekend. You were home laying on the back of on the sofa watching television. Probably had a brown pop or two, some beef jerky. Rosie the pandemic pup is at your side, and the doorbell rang. So you said, "Dear, I'll get it." You put on your slippers that are all duct taped together, and my gosh, you get to the front door and King Charles is standing there.
You're not far off. How did you know how this happened?
Well, actually, the neighbors were telling me because they said they were looking out their California shutters in their windows, and up the street came this horse-drawn royal coach, which was painted black with gold leaf, and it pulled into the Farwell driveway.
You know, I offered him a beer, said, Chuck, come on in, right? Don't mind my slippers, and we'll have a little chit-chat. We'll have a little chin wag, you and me.
Yeah. And probably turned to your wife and said, "Dear, put on a pot of Earl Grey tea, and why don't you run down to Hortons and get us a box of Timbits?"
Bingo. It's got to be done that way. The tea and then the Timbits, so have the British and the Canadian all coming together like that.
Exactly.
Just make sure... Sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's got to be some perks with receiving the King Charles Medal. If I'm driving along Weber Street now, Mike, just work with me here. I pull into one of those strip plazas. I pull up to the store where they have all those special parking signs, and one will say, "This spot reserved for expectant mother, this spot reserved for employee of the month." There's now going to be a sign that says, "This spot reserved for Mike Farwell."
Yes, but only if I ride in on a horse-drawn carriage, right? So I'm either in Mennonite country or I'm at the mall with the special parking spot for me. And all I really want, Gary, the only thing I really want out of all of this is for people to now refer to me as Your Highness. If you could just do that, I'd be so grateful.
Well, I'll put it on the list here. We'll see. And this was your past week of touching your toes. How's that going?
Oh, Gary. Okay, listen, I always will tell the truth. And so it's going very poorly. This is the fourth day of the work week, if you will, and I'm yet to work on my stretching one time. Now, I had 3 times last week. I got off to a great start. I'm falling off the proverbial wagon very quickly here.
Well, King Charles, did he get down on his knees, put his top at us? Priscilla, was she there? I mean, come on. You had lots of motivation there.
I know. And you know what? He showed me up because he listens to our show, especially this segment, every Thursday. He said so, Gary. He listens online at kitchener.citynews.ca. So he's listening right now and touching his toes because King Charles can do that.
Hey, what is said on the Mike Farwell show is the truth. That's it.
That's right.
Jan heard you about this stretch resolution you had, so I'm doing these things now. And there's a way of doing it. What I do is I sit in my lazy boy chair, and it's got one of those buttons that I press on the side, and the footstool comes up. Touching your toes in that sitting position, but laid back in a lazy boy chair works. You just press that button do maybe 10 or 12 reps, and before you know it, you're touching your toes.
I kind of like this idea, Gary, and I've been nudging my beloved to say, hey, you know what this house really needs is a good lazy boy recliner. So,
I'll tell you, I love my Archie chair.
I hope our friends at Conway Furniture are listening to this.
Yeah, exactly. You need one. You always should have one. This is real. I looked on the internet and I discovered that one of the difficulties of learning to touch your toes is that you can only get down so far. To me, I'm just past my belt, but you just get down so far, and your brain kicks in, and it reacts to a stretching intolerance and prevents you from touching your toes. So, again, the brain reaches what they call a certain threshold. It shuts down, and because of the pain, you can't touch your toe. It's been proven by science. There are 2 examples, only 2, where your brain never really reaches that threshold, and you just keep going. One, men drinking beer.
Hold my beer. Watch this.
That's right.
Yeah.
You say, dear, I'm just going to have a beer, and, your brain doesn't reach the threshold. Before you know it, you're at 7. That's just but the other one is for women. An example where the brain doesn't reach that threshold and shut down. Instead of stopping with 3 decorator pillows on the top of the bed, before you know it, they're home, and you got 13. They're just everywhere. It's proven by science.
Listen, scientifically speaking, my brain is clearly not big enough for me to ever touch my toes.
Mike, I've been following the lives of people who receive the column every Monday. There's a shameless plug for you. But what I've discovered that as we age, our brains begin to slow down. Right? Slowly we stop thinking. And there's really only one reason for that, why we think less, because we don't have to. We now have Bluetooth technology.
Gary, there's a reason we get along so well. I could not possibly agree more, and we will explore that further as we continue with Gary Chalk this morning. He joins us every Thursday at 10:30 for Living Retired, his humor column right here on our show. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every Thursday morning at 10:30, Gary Chalk joins us on the program for something we called Living Retired. We call it that because Gary writes a humor column under the same name, Living Retired. You can find it for yourself online at livingretired.press. And we were talking about the science of touching our toes a moment ago, and really how our brains prevent us from getting there because a certain threshold for pain kicks in. But you see, our brains are slowing down, and Gary pointed out before the break that the main reason they are is because of advances in technology. Gary, I could not agree more. So many things try to do the things for me. I don't even have to turn on the lights in my vehicle anymore.
Oh, you have lights in your vehicle?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Apparently.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I guess now that you're Sir Mike, you've got everything.
I do. Right. Imagine that. A vehicle that moves with working lights. Yes.
My goodness. Yeah, it's that Bluetooth technology. Nothing causes people who are living retired to pull their hair out even more than their adult children moving back home is some Bluetooth-enabled product. If you ask your grandchildren, you have to ask someone who knows what it's all about. And, even if your grandchildren are still in preschool, they'll know. They'll tell you that the Bluetooth technology is the thing that wirelessly interconnects all your devices. Like you can sync your watch to your desktop computer, so now you'll have a record showing of how far you walk. Now, my way of thinking is, I don't need that. My throbbing knees, they tell me how far I've walked. I don't need any Bluetooth technology. In fact, yesterday, Jan said, Gary, when it comes to Bluetooth technology, you're long in the tooth. And I said, you're right. At my age, I need no tooth technology.
There you go. I'm ready for this.
Yes, and also the dentist. They tell you that you should change your toothbrush about every 3 months. Well, a while back, we got one of those Bluetooth things, and I came to the conclusion, Sir Mike, that instead of poking a toothbrush, it's connected to my computer in my mouth. It's not the daily drill. The daily drill. Did you get it there? So I went back to that old-fashioned toothbrush. Now, there is something that caused you frustration more than Bluetooth. I have to get out a Black & Decker chainsaw to rip open all that packaging just to get out my toothbrush. And at the end, I'm in one of those anger management support groups in a church basement. It doesn't stop. Have you got a Bluetooth cell phone, you and your wife?
Oh, yes.
The instructions that said, go to settings, press connections, press Bluetooth, press the blue button. Only thing that was blue was the air, and that was from Jan.
No, Gary, you don't say.
Have you got a Bluetooth thermostat in your house?
I do not.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
I've talked to our friends of ours. They've got them, and their comment basically was, He and his wife, they have no idea how to change the clock on that Bluetooth thermostat. The only thing they can do is look at it, get frustrated, and then make arrangements to duke it out on Dr. Phil. It's just where it's going. It is just unbelievable. And I was at the doctor on Monday, my annual physical, and I picked up a magazine. Now, it was a doctor's office, so this was 2012. And when I turned the page of the story I was reading, somebody ripped the last page out, but it was talking about the fact that Bluetooth, do you know when it was invented?
I do not know when Bluetooth was invented.
It was invented in 1999, and imagine what the first Bluetooth device was. It was a hands-free mobile headset. That's what the first thing. But then they went on and they talked about some of these other products they were reviewing, Bluetooth products, back in 2012. First up was a Bluetooth lock for your front door of your home. It's like a deadbolt. Has an app. That is a simple function. You can lock the door, open the door wherever you are. I got that one. But then they talked about a Bluetooth headset, fits over your ears and lets you listen to music and at the same time receive telephone calls. Mike, if I'm listening to Taylor Swift, why would I want to take in a call from a duct cleaning company?
Exactly. You can't interrupt T-Swizzle.
No, exactly. And then they described, some of these were amazing. There's a scale. It measures your weight and your body mass index, which is good. But then, get this, it posts your results directly to Facebook. So your friends can shake their head. Why on earth do you want them to know you're a borderline sumo wrestler? You know, your friends know right away, all because of this Bluetooth stuff.
It just occurs to me that this is why perhaps we should start weighing ourselves only in the evening, because what a depressing way to start the day.
Oh, I know. Just weigh yourself. Oh, well, go to bed, go to sleep. That's
exactly.
All the other products that are Bluetooth, there's a meat thermometer, there's light bulbs. I hadn't heard of this one, a Bluetooth refrigerator deodorizer. This thing sniffs out when to toss the tomatoes. Now, it comes with a caveat. This thing is $230. Now, you can buy Arm & Hammer baking soda for $1.99. There's something, and I don't make this stuff up, Mike. You can also have now your very own Bluetooth, and you're hearing it here first, an earwax removal kit.
Gary, we said earlier that everything that gets said on this show is true. Come on, earwax removal.
Yep, you sync this thing with your Bluetooth, with your phone and the earwax removal kit to your iPad. Presto, you can follow the buildup of your earwax ear by ear.
And year by year.
And year by year,
yes.
Exactly.
Okay, got
and
it.
The earwax removal kit. Now, I don't get this. I'm just reading what it said in the magazine. It includes 6 little itty-bitty adjustable lights. The only thing I can think of the benefit of that is when the power goes out, you can see by just tilting your head to the floor.
Right? That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. And this stuff goes on. So I thought, what type of Bluetooth technology products should we have? Right? Would help us. Here's one for the Chalk household. How about a Bluetooth-enabled Tupperware container that as soon as you're about to open the cupboard to get out your Tupperware salad spinner, this app immediately calls 911 and notifies the emergency people there's going to be an avalanche in your kitchen of everything Tupperware.
That's right, because when you get one Tupperware, all the other Tupperware comes with it.
All comes with it, all different sizes, colors, and shapes. They're bouncing around. They're up to your knees in your kitchen. I think that would be a good Bluetooth product. Other one, how about, we would have used this last month, how about your outdoor Christmas lights? Have them sync to your iPhone, and what the benefit is, it tells you before you put them up underneath the eaves which light bulbs are not going to blink.
Very helpful, Gary, very helpful.
You know, it's just amazing what Bluetooth technology can do. I always say, when it comes to technology, I change a light bulb with a hammer. And that is why Bluetooth technology for this living retired guy is going anywhere. If it's a Bluetooth product, I jump in my Nissan Murano and I get out of Dodge.
I am with you all the way, and I like to play on Nissan and Dodge.
You got that. Good.
Gary, it's always fun. Thanks for being here today.
Have a good one.
You too, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gary Chalk writes the humor column. Living retired. How many times have I said this? Come on. How many times? Technology is making us dumber. The technology is doing too many of the things, and we don't use that supercomputer between our ears often enough. If we don't start using it, we will lose it. You know how that goes. Gary writes a humor column called Living Retired. You can find it online, livingretired.press. And while you're there, make sure you sign up to get the weekly column delivered right into your inbox. You'll thank me for it later. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. For some reason, I only noticed last Friday when that big voice comes on and says, he may bark, but he doesn't bite hard. Have you noticed the dog that barks when the big voice is talking? Am I a Chihuahua? Am I a Chihuahua? I would rather be a German Shepherd, please. Could I be a German Shepherd? I don't want to be a Chihuahua. I might have to change my image now for fear of being described as a Chihuahua. Can we get a meaner bark is all I'm asking for. Arr! That's the best I got on a Thursday morning. I love what's coming up in this next half hour because there are a couple of stories. One is of someone giving back to a place that helped them. And the other comes directly from a phone call from you. I love the way it all came together. You should consider doing a show about this sometime, Mike. And then immediately following that suggestion, an email from one of you that said, you know how easy it would be to do a show like that because a local organization is putting on an educational program about that very thing. And the next thing you know, we've got the next 30 minutes of programming here on the show. Stay with us. The Mike Farwell Show continues on 570 News Radio. I received an email from my good friend Tony Lee about a week ago. And Tony shared with me his cancer journey. And 2 years ago this month, he was able to complete his chemotherapy treatment at Grand River Hospital for non-Hodgkin's and Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 4. But he completed it all, and he is the picture of health. Along the journey for Tony, he began exercising again, which also got him into the sport of pickleball, which I know many of you know very well because it is one of the most popular forms of exercise these days. And now that Tony has completed his cancer journey, at least to this point, he wants to help raise funds for those who are receiving cancer treatment in our community. Enter the annual pickleball tournament that is coming up in early February at Rim Park. Joining us to talk more about it, Paul Amaral, who's the community event coordinator at the Grand River Hospital Foundation. Paul, good morning. And Stephen Fisher joins us as well, an associate professor of kinesiology and health sciences at the University of Waterloo. Stephen, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
If I could start with you, Stephen, the WellFit program through the University of Waterloo, I've heard great things about it. How does the WellFit rehab program work?
Yeah, thanks for taking some time, Mike, and we're obviously really grateful for Tony and the success of his journey and promoting exercise. But the way the WellFit program works is we provide structured dosed exercise for folks going through or recovering from cancer. Why that's really important? Well, if you think about, taking a bridge to an island or something, and you're transporting equipment across that bridge, the bigger the bridge is, the more you can transport across. So exercise is almost like creating a bigger bridge so that folks working through cancer can tolerate a stronger dose of treatment, can recover quicker, can have a better outcome. So we're really excited to be able to provide that exercise strategy for those folks.
What does the program look like in terms of what participants are asked to do? Like, I'm sure we're not bench pressing 250 pounds here or anything like that. At least not at the beginning. I'm sure you can get us there.
Yeah, if I kind of jokingly, that's a little bit of the goal, though. So what we're trying to do is help people. We're using, like I said, structured exercise. They are doing resistance training. Our participants are absolutely, doing squats. They're doing push movements like a bench press. and incrementally improving the amount that they can work. Now, what's really special about this program is that as you're going through cancer treatment, there's a number of side effects that you're trying to combat. So if you just go to your local gym, that you might have a PICC line or something, there might be something that's prohibitive. And our team of experts here at the University of Waterloo are able to adapt that exercise to make sure that each and every one of our clients is getting the most out of their training and really getting the best benefit based on their energy levels on the day that they're coming into our gym.
How did this come to pass, Stephen, this relationship between the University of Waterloo and these well-fit rehab sessions and the connection to our regional cancer center at Grand River?
Yeah, great question, Mike. So this started almost 20 years ago, actually over 20 years ago now, originally as a research study. So trying to understand how we can use exercise to complement all of the great therapies that are happening in our world-leading cancer center. Over time, that kind of grew into developing a much more stronger partnership where we're now providing care for almost 400 patient clients every year that are referred from our cancer center here in the community.
It's absolutely incredible stuff. I love the collaboration between these two great institutions, the University of Waterloo, Grand River Hospital. And Paul, that leads us into the tournament on February the 8th at Rim Park, where pickleballers will unite in support of a common cause, and that is raising money for the work you do through Grand River Hospital and the Cancer Care Center.
Well, absolutely. And we're so thrilled to be partnering with Steve and our friends at the university for the first annual Rally for Cancer. And so it really does bring the community together in terms of, people that are passionate about, cancer care and wanting to be fit. And so we're just putting the final touches on our tournament. We've got a few spots still left for those that want to play some pickleball. It is a mixed format pickleball, which means it can be all teams of female or male and mixed teams. We got a couple of different levels depending on your skill level for pickleball. A lot of fun. You get a free T-shirt and a great way to raise some money for our cancer center.
Absolutely. What do these community contributions, Paul, the community raising money like this for the cancer center, mean to the work that you do?
Well, it's life saving. Without events and people like Steve and people like Tony as community fundraisers, we can't offer as many services and as many programs that we can under our government funding and through the budgets of the hospital. So it is very impactful. And so as an example, like with this event here, we've already raised, $8,000 and we want to raise more over the next month. And that means specifically that $8,000 can help 11 additional cancer patients receive, 2 sessions of WellFit a week for the next 12 weeks. And that's the impact that this kind of event has specifically on cancer patients.
That makes me think, Steve, how does somebody get into or involved with the WellFit program?
Yeah, so most of our patients are referred directly from their nurses or oncologist. So if you're looking for a referral, I'd certainly encourage folks to ask questions next time you're in for a treatment or talking with your oncologist. Or you can connect with us directly. So University of Waterloo, uwaterloo.ca, CCCARE or CC Care, and you'll quickly find us and you can reach out directly to us that way.
I think it's fantastic. And as a professor of kinesiology and health sciences, what would you say about the benefits of pickleball, Steve?
Oh, yeah, I think it's fantastic. I have so many family and friends that have found pickleball, not only for the exercise, but the social, the community, the energy of, meeting people like Tony, such a fantastic way to stay fit, stay connected, as you have the time to get out and spend time with all these friends playing pickleball. So fantastic. I'm so excited to learn. Tony's promised to help me improve, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, wow. He's offering you some pickleball tips now, is he?
100%.
Paul, how can the community get involved, help you raise more than, add on to that $8,000 that's already been raised at this pickleball tournament, the first annual on February the 8th?
Yeah, absolutely. We encourage everyone to go to our website at the Hospital Foundation. It's www.rallyforcancer.ca. So that's RALLYFORCANCER.ca. Or you can contact me directly at 226-972-3111, and I'd love to be able to get you set up as to play or to donate. You can also donate online as well. That'll specifically go through this website, to the University of Waterloo program. And you can also sponsor as well. So we'll be happy to talk to anybody that's interested.
I'll make sure I throw something Tony's way because his story is so inspirational. I just love what he's doing. And the fact that he's used that as an opportunity to give back, I think it's just terrific. Gentlemen, thank you for what you do to support folks in our community through these programs, and really appreciate your time on the show today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Much appreciated.
Paul Amaral and Stephen Fisher joining our program this morning. Paul is a community event coordinator with the Grand River Hospital Foundation. Stephen, an associate professor of kinesiology and health sciences at the University of Waterloo. I remember the last time we had an opportunity to talk about that WellFit program, and it was the first I'd learned of it. And I got an email afterwards that from, the person listening at the right time to have heard about it, did not know prior that it existed. Yes, this relationship, and it goes back a couple of decades now, between the University of Waterloo and our Grand River Hospital to help people along that cancer journey and build that bridge. And the stronger the bridge, the better able the patient to endure the treatments that are really quite difficult and devastating when it comes to cancer. So our friend Tony, I'm sure you know Tony as well. He's highly regarded and well known in the community. And following his own cancer journey, he wants to give back. He has entered a team in the first annual Rally for Cancer Pickleball Tournament, which is taking place at Rim Park on February the 8th. You can learn more at rallyforcancer.ca. Make a donation, register a team of your own. There's still a little bit of space. And who doesn't love playing pickleball these days, apparently? Love the story, love the collaboration on healthcare outcomes in our community. A quick break. When we come back, the story inspired by you. You said, Mike, you should do this sometime and help people understand how better to live with diabetes. And I got an email immediately following from another one of you who said, did you know what this organization is offering in that very regard? We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. So sometime last week, we get a call from our regular listener, Grant. And Grant says, you should do a show about living with diabetes because I have a friend who is doing just that, living with diabetes, but he's having a hard time kind of navigating this new world for him. And I said, Grant, thanks for the suggestion. We'll see what we can do. And no sooner did I finish that call with Grant than I got an email from Donna, another one of our loyal listeners, whose voice we don't hear often enough anymore, but she's busy, but not too busy to send emails. And Donna's email said, did you know that our local YMCA is offering a free upcoming class on diabetes, whether you have it, might have it, or don't want it, and want more information regarding it? I said, Donna, I didn't know that, but we're going to find out more. And so we get the chance to do that right now as we welcome Crystal Hughes to the program. Crystal is the Director of Wellness at the YMCA of Three Rivers. Crystal, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
And
Marcia, great to be here today.
It's great to have you here, and thank you very much for carving out the time. Marcia Phillips is with us as well. Marcia is a health management program coordinator at the YMCA. Good morning, Marcia.
Good morning, Mike. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you here as well. Crystal, let me start with you, if I could. What will we learn at this diabetes education program through the Y?
Mike, if it's okay, I'm going to hand this one to Marcia.
Sure.
So we have a program called Diabetes Fit. And this program focuses on developing sustainable, healthy habits. So our focus is to help participants build the confidence and the skills that they're going to need to make those healthy changes over time. So it's a grouped program. We keep the group small, 8 to 15 participants. Takes about 12 weeks, and we meet once a week for 90 minutes. And we've got those 90-minute sessions sort of divided into education, goal setting, and, of course, exercise, which is what the YMCA is known for. So our education, we focus on exercise principles, nutrition, and of course stress management. It's a very forgotten piece of health management in general. We have had folks participate in wheelchairs. We have had folks participate and then go on to do a marathon. So wherever you are at with your health and fitness journey, there's a place for you if you're looking to learn a little bit more about how to manage your diabetes.
I love it. From running a marathon, that's a bold goal. And not
absolutely.
Yeah. So why does the YMCA offer this program?
Well, Mike, the Y is a charity committed to building healthy communities. And, we must address pressing health challenges. And according to Diabetes Canada, 30% of Canadians are living with diabetes or prediabetes. It's touched me personally, as both my father and my grandmother had diabetes. So about 90% of diabetes cases are type 2, and so we're focusing on the prevention and management of type 2 diabetes. There's some risk factors for type 2, like genetics and age, that can't be changed. But research does show that adopting a healthy lifestyle can help to delay or prevent the disease and its complications. And Mike, many of our participants share with us how overwhelmed and isolated they feel by their diagnosis. For some, the fear of not fitting in or not knowing what to do really is a major barrier to getting healthier. So we want to help remove fear and offer hope. So through programs like Diabetes Fit, we're really striving to create that safe space where people can begin their journey and access the resources and support that truly make a difference in their lives. And just to let you know, we've been running this program since 2011, and we've been able to support over 2,000 people at risk of or living with diabetes. And if you don't mind, I just want to acknowledge some important partners of ours in this work. We're really thankful for our healthcare partners whose dietitians help to support the nutrition education in Diabetes Fit. So there's 4 family health teams that help us out: Two Rivers, New Vision, Guelph, and Stratford, and as well as 2 community health centers, so Langs Farm and Healthcare in KW. And of course, we are so very grateful to Sun Life for their generous support, because they are allowing us to offer the program at no cost, which is helping us to reach those who need it the most.
14 years this has been running. If not for Donna's email, I would have gone 14 years more without I'm so glad we can have this conversation today. So, Marcia, what do we need to take part in this? How can we get involved?
Yeah, so we are trying to keep barriers to joining as low as possible. So if you've got a qualifying condition, you qualify. So type 2 diabetes, perhaps you've been diagnosed with prediabetes, or if you've identified yourself at risk of diabetes, welcome to join. We've got options available in person and virtually. So if you're interested in a virtual program, you'd need a computer and access to Zoom. In person, you just need a way to get to your local YMCA. We offer these programs across the region, so Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph, and Stratford. So there should be a local YMCA available for you. And again, we are pleased to offer it free of charge. And if you are participating, we're going to make sure you have what you need. So we provide our participants with resistance bands, pedometer, because we do a little bits of step counting as well, and of course a journal for all of that action planning and recording of your progress.
Crystal, are there things we should do or even consider to get the most out of our participation in Diabetes Fit?
This is such a great question. I think, to get the most out of the program, you really need to start by asking yourself if you're ready for the commitment. Regular attendance is key, even when it feels hard. I think the other is really approaching the program with an open mind and being willing to try new things. And finally, we would encourage you to really engage with your group. The energy and support of fellow participants can be a powerful motivator and can lead to some lifelong friendships.
I think it's fantastic. And we're running quickly short of time, but very quickly, Marcia, where can we sign up? How do we get involved in this?
YMCA3rivers.ca is going to have a list of our current programs, and keep an eye on that website for our upcoming programs as well. Next round starts in April, and if you'd want to just send us an email, wellness@ytr.ymca.ca.
I love it. And YMCA3rivers.ca, the website. This is great. I'm so glad to learn about it and that you could share more information about Diabetes Fit with us today. Crystal, Marcia, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you
for having us.
Marcia Phillips, Crystal Hughes with the YMCA of Three Rivers. Find them online, YMCA3rivers.ca. This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It was such a random email talking about a casual encounter with the Fonz, and suddenly I thought, we all must have a random brush with fame, right? That's the question that you can answer during the Flipside coming up. Who was your brush with fame with? This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. This is the time of day and time of week, 11:30 on Thursday mornings. We take a break from some of the heavier stuff we talk about on the show, you know, like liberal leadership campaigns and $4.6 billion that's required to get LRT into Cambridge and stuff like that. And we have a little bit of fun every Thursday morning at 11:30, the Flipside. And this inspiration came to me late yesterday during the show, when it was just a random email. I was talking about Paul Fixter and I getting ready to go to Brantford to broadcast the Connor McDavid OHL Top Prospects game for you last night. Fixie and I were looking very forward to it. The game delivered and then some on our expectations. A lot of fun in Brantford, a terrific game. The Kitchener Rangers players who participated, Cameron Reed, Luca Romano, Adrian Misseljevic, all showed up, had a great night on the ice. It was terrific all around. But when I was talking about it on the show yesterday, I got an email from Mike, who wrote to Mike at 570news.com. I met Marc-Andre Fleury in the Civic Center in Brantford before he made his NHL debut. And I responded to Mike saying, that's the best thing about junior hockey. You get to be around these players before they become stars. And then that led to a follow-up email from Mike that just, well, kind of blew my mind a little bit. He said, Marc-Andre Fleury would never remember me. And I can understand that. I mean, we're going back decades in this case. But Mike's email goes on to talk about another brush with somebody who was pretty famous. You ever heard of the Fonz? Kids, if you're too young for that, ask your parents. But an actor by the name of Henry Winkler. And Mike said, I met Henry Winkler while drinking a coffee before the car show opened in Calgary. Like, I'm sorry, but that's random. Henry Winkler at a car show in Calgary, or maybe just in Calgary to, I don't know. Is that where he jumped the shark in the episode of Happy Days? Oh, no, wait, that was in California. Anyway, Henry Winkler in Calgary drinking a coffee. There is Mike's brush with fame. He didn't know that I was going to spin this out into a topic today, but how can I resist that, especially as somebody that grew up absolutely loving the TV show Happy Days, and yes, wanting very much to be the Fonz. I had my own jacket that was not leather, that I called my leather jacket, and you best not touch that the wrong way or even look at me the wrong way when I'm wearing that jacket, or I would go all Arthur Fonzarelli on you. And so I use Mike's email as inspiration to ask you the question today. What was or who was your brush with fame? 519-570-2545. Star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Can you top the randomness of a coffee in Calgary before the car show and encountering Henry Winkler? Let's find out. We go to the phones and start with Paul. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Listen, you're not going to believe this, but I actually had dinner with a world-famous radio talk show host a couple of weeks back.
You had dinner with Howard Stern?
No, somebody world famous.
And what else have you got this morning, Paul?
Listen, I traveled a lot. I met a lot of different people. best one was I drove our future Prime Minister of Canada from Cambridge down to Burlington a couple of years ago. So I had him all to myself for about 45 minutes.
Are you talking about Pierre Poilievre?
Yep. I shook hands with Muhammad Ali at an airport in, I think, Pittsburgh.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, you take a little baby's hand in your hand and shake it. That's what it was like.
For Muhammad Ali, like his bare paws would have buried your hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, in reverse, shaking his hand, the stupid moving walkway right up the center of the airport. I had to run all the ways down to one end and up the other side to get around to where he was. He was signing autographs and that, but I got there just in time. He was in kind of ill health, so they had a cart to take him off to his next flight. And all I got just in time to get a handshake, and off he goes. But like I say, you know, when it comes to politics, there's not too many I haven't met. So I'm not going to go through all of those. But
all right, well, I gotta run to other calls anyway.
You have a great day.
Thanks, Paul. You too. So the future Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre, Paul says he got to drive for about 40 minutes. And then Muhammad Ali, that's way up there in terms of celebrity status for sure. Speaking of prime ministers, former Prime Minister Joe Clark, I took the ferry to Toronto Island Airport with him one time. I mean, we didn't schedule it. We weren't buddies. We just happened to be on the same ferry. Sharon, good morning. What was your brush with fame?
Good morning. I got a kiss from Frank Sinatra.
I'm sorry, you said you got a kiss from Frank Sinatra?
I did. I was in Las Vegas, and we went to see his show there. And actually, we went all the way here from Waterloo to Las Vegas around getting tickets to the show, but we had trouble getting them. So his buddy, Jilly Russo, got us tickets to the show. After the show, Jilly came over and said, so how was the night? We said, wonderful. We asked if there was one more favor, and that was if we could meet him. And he said, well, that's tough. He said, just keep an eye after the show. He'll go down to the gambling. Him and his wife watch them, and then later in the evening, when you see them leave, go into the elevator, that would be the time to catch them. So we did that. I asked him if I could get a kiss from him, and he said, right here on the cheek. So I kissed Frank Sinatra.
Sharon, you are a miracle of modern science. I don't know how you could do that and not die on the spot. It's Frank Sinatra, Sharon.
Well, actually, sitting at the show, Tom Jones was in the booth right behind us.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yes, and I asked for a picture, but apparently it wasn't the proper thing to do because he wasn't sitting with his wife.
Oh, Sharon.
True story.
I love it. Thanks for sharing the story.
Alrighty.
Great to hear from you. A kiss from Frank Sinatra. Whew. That will send many a heart swooning today. Sean, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. My brush with fame, January 10th, 2004. My first game on Rogers, I got to work with Mike Farwell.
Come on with your coming on first. Jeez Louise.
That's not mine.
I know it's not.
I wanted to open with that. I only had one, but now I have two because you mentioned you rode a ferry with Joe Clark.
I did, yeah.
So when I was 9 years old, Joe Clark did a campaign event in my neighborhood in Guelph, and I had a newspaper. I was 9 years old, and I had a neighborhood newspaper. I would type it on my physical typewriter, and I would sell it for 25 cents on my street. It was one page. And Joe Clark was down the street, and I walked right up to him in the middle of this campaign event with a notepad in hand and said, "Hi, I'm a local reporter. I'd like to know what you're doing here." And it was on the cover of the Mercury. That was my first brush with fame back when I was 9 years old.
It's fantastic. I love that you're putting out your own newspaper. I'm sure the Trib and the Mercury didn't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it was 1982. I mean, it didn't have a high circulation. I think it was 6. So, you know, that's like, think of your listeners compared to my readership at that time, Mike. Crazy.
I know.
My second one was
inflation. Your 6 readers turned into my 45 listeners today.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Exactly. My second one was just this past summer. My wife and I were on our honeymoon in Italy, and we were walking down the street in Florence, and it was a really, really packed street. And we got the Google Maps open on the phone, and we were like, let's just take the side street. It'll take us 2 minutes longer. So we're walking down this narrow sidewalk, And this whole time in Italy, we've been playing this game because we see so many people. We're like, oh, look at that guy. That looks like Brad Pitt. But if you ordered it from Temu, that looks like Taylor Swift. But if you ordered it from Wish. So this tall guy comes walking towards us on the sidewalk. And my brain says, oh, I got to make a Temu Jeff Goldblum joke when he walks by. And I look up as he's passing me, and we kind of have to turn sideways, and we go chest to chest. And it's actually Jeff Goldblum. And he walks by me, and I look at my wife, Heather, and she has these wide eyes like, that's Jeff Goldblum. And I just turn around and just really calmly said, excuse me, Mr. Goldblum? And it's an empty street, almost an alley. So, excuse me, Mr. Goldblum? And he just, in the most Jeff Goldblum way, turns and goes, yes. And we stopped and had a quick 5-minute conversation. He's like, oh, where are you from? Oh, you're on your honeymoon. Oh, my wife's from Toronto. We had this whole long chat. Super, super nice guy. Took a photo and went on our merry way. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely love it. I love to hear when those encounters are so positive.
Yeah, it was really, really pleasant. I mean, and that's what I always say to people. You know, don't yell, don't scream, don't holler. Just treat him like a normal person. And he was more, you know, at first I said, I don't want an autograph, I don't want a picture or anything. I just want to tell you, you know, I've always loved your movies. And so that spawned the conversation. And at the end, he just kind of looked at me, and there was this pause, and he was like, do you think we should take the picture? And I'm like, do you think we should? And he just looks at me and goes, I would love that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Great story. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah.
All right. Good to hear from you this morning. When it's so positive, right? What is that saying? Never meet your heroes because it inevitably turns out to be disappointing. It was not disappointing meeting Jeff Goldblum on the streets of Italy. Janice, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your brush with fame? I'm good, thanks.
Well, I met a lot. I've seen a lot, been a foot away from a lot. Like I've had the Monkees back in the day when they were famous.
Hey, hey, we're the Monkees.
Yes.
People say we monkey around.
And I was like very close to the Carpenters. And the one I really remember is Harry Belafonte.
Oh, Harry Belafonte, another legend.
I saw him, and I went, I belonged to St. John Ambulance at the time, and we got to go backstage because that's where our room was. And
Wait a minute. Your room was backstage at a Harry Belafonte concert?
Yes.
What the hell kind of place were you at, Janice?
We had to walk by him.
Okay.
And he had a lady that was...
I'll bet he did.
...audience that had her son with him. And he brought her, it was a friend of his, and he brought her back to meet her son and stuff. And her little son turned around and looked at his mom and says, but, Mom, I thought he was white.
Oh, of course. You know, out of the mouths of babes. Out of the mouths of babes. Nathan, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. So you kind of know I grew up around rock and roll and whatnot. So I have two of them. In the Bahamas back in the 80s, my dad's best friend was visiting, and we used to live across the street from Island Records Studios. They had a games room there, pool and foosball, whatnot. So my dad's best friend and me decided we're going to go play some pool. So we get into the studio past the main gate, and we decide to run to the pool table to see who's going to have to set them up. We round the corner, and there's a collision in the hallway between my dad's best friend and Mick Jagger. He got sent on his duff pretty hard.
I'll bet he did. There's not much to Mick Jagger, just skin and bones.
Yeah, he's pretty skinny, and of course, my dad's friend was very apologetic and worried that he was going to get sued, but everything was fine. So that was a run-in with a celebrity, I guess you could say.
Literally, yeah.
And then 30 years later, I'm in Montreal for Comic-Con. I had a film playing there, and I got to go I had to use the bathroom, and I got to go use a bathroom that was for the guests only area. And I posted up next to Sir Patrick Stewart.
You don't say.
Yeah, he was actually really nice. We were washing hands and just had a brief conversation. He was very nice. Found out I was from this area, and oh yes, near Toronto. Okay, yeah, very pleasant man.
I love to hear that, and I love to hear that you were practicing good bathroom hygiene. Wash your hands. We're asking on the flip side today, what was your or who was your brush with fame? As we continue on the Mike Farwell Show this morning, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. After I got an email from Mike yesterday to mike@570news.com that just said casually, I met Henry Winkler once while having coffee before the car show in Calgary. Like, that almost sounds fake, but it just casually in an email. I thought, well, more than Mike have had a brush with fame, and perhaps just as random. A coffee before a car show in Calgary. There's the Fonz. So we're asking you on the flip side today, what was your brush with fame, or who was it with? Back to the phones. Kyle, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
Great game last night.
It was a lot of fun.
It looked like a really fun game. I'm glad it wasn't just an all-star game. But to the topic at hand.
Yes.
Two quick ones. This was about 3 years ago. I had bailed out my boss. I worked at a sales company, technology company. He forgot that he had booked a speaking obligation at a conference about 48 hours in advance. So I bailed him out and took a spot, put together a presentation on a Saturday, went and delivered a conversation to a conference on a Saturday. He owed me a steak dinner. Of course, I took him up on it at Harbor 60 in Toronto.
Had a boy.
Right, so I got my money's worth. But as we're sitting there eating, Drake walks in, Russell Westbrook walks in, LeBron James walks in, Anthony Davis walks in. The Lakers were in town to play the Raptors the next day. So that was really cool because quite literally they were 6 feet from me, being wined and dined as I was making cost-conscious decisions on expensive steaks. Right, they were just getting bottles and what have you. But what's even more fun than that, I was a young kid. I would have been maybe 1 year old, born in Winnipeg, but we were back in Newfoundland in St. John's visiting family. And I was only like 1 year old. We were staying in a hotel. And my father he wasn't there at the time. Like, he was out of the hotel at the time. I guess I was trying to sleep as an infant, right? And there was all kinds of racket going on, all kinds of loud music and crashing and banging. So my mom went to the floor below and started banging on the door. And she tells them, cut it out. I've got kids upstairs trying to sleep. This is ridiculous. The next day, they're at the little mall in St. John's. And my mom says, to my father, that's that doorknob that was making all the noise last night. And he says to my mother, Val, that's Alice Cooper.
So good, Kyle. So good. I love it.
Take care, Mike.
You too. Great to hear from you. Gee, I wonder why Alice Cooper was making noise in a hotel in Newfoundland. Marlene, good morning. Hello, Marlene. I don't hear a Marlene there. We're not going to get a Marlene brush with fame because she wasn't there. Jason, what was your brush with fame?
Michael, back in grade 9, and I know, it's surprising. I was skipping school.
No.
One day. And do you remember back in the early 90s, like, NHL would send some teams on, like, and play, like, regular season games into, like, areas that they didn't have a team. So living in Hamilton, the Leafs played there once or twice in these offshoot games. But anyways, skipping school, it was a Monday because I remember, and my buddies and I would turn around the corner at Jackson Square downtown, and the Leafs were playing that night. Dave Ellett, Todd Gill, I believe it was Nikolai Borshevsky, and another player, and I look at them like, hey, I'm a big Leaf fan, but starstruck. I didn't, hey, can I get an autograph? But then the problem was, Mike, I couldn't tell my mom because obviously I wasn't supposed to be skipping school. Years later, I said, hey, I remember. Anyways, I told her the story years later. But yeah, that was one of my brushes with some Leaf fame.
I love it, Jason. Best fame to get is Leafs fame, and Jackson Square, just for the record, great album by the Arkells. I think we have Marlene back.
You do.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Good morning. What was your brush with fame?
So it was kind of intended, but do you remember back when Patrick Law was the spokesperson?
No, I don't care about that guy. I don't care about that guy. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry, Marley. Yes, I do. Of course I do. Yes.
Well, I thankfully lived between two TIBCs, so when I went to see him the first time, I didn't realize you could get a picture and autograph and all that stuff. So then I went back the next day to the other location, and I was able to get a picture with him, and he signed my Canadians sweatshirt, too. So that was my first one. And then my second one, my amazing husband, for my, I don't want to say it, but 50th birthday, got me tickets to go see Bret Michaels in Niagara Falls.
Wow.
And I, of course, didn't realize that he actually got me front row center stage. So I was right up at the center stage, and Bret Michaels actually stopped singing so I could take a picture with him behind me.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's all on YouTube if anybody wants to see it.
Great stuff, Marlene. Thanks for calling in.
You're welcome. Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. And I'm even going to let the team that shall not be named slide because it was that brush with fame. I guess that guy used to play goal for them or something. I don't know. It's your Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio, Rogers TV. I have to get you to the 570 News Center for a quick update, but if you want to keep talking about brushes with fame, the Talkback Hour is open lines coming up. Hang on with us. We'll take more calls on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night.
Don't talk back.
The only thing to do when you're having fun, the absolute only thing to do when you're having fun is have more of it. We had a lot of fun in the last half hour sharing stories of our brushes with fame, and so many of you couldn't get through then, but remain on the lines. I appreciate your patience, and I want to hear those stories because they're fun. Desi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
Oh, I'm so well, dear friend. How are you?
Oh, not too bad at all.
Good.
Yeah, could get rid of this snow, though. I've had enough of it.
Oh, you and me both. I try not to complain, Desi, but and you know what? You know what'll warm us up? Just sidling in there to the Duke for a good old pint of Guinness.
You got it. Absolutely. So I got to tell you about a few brushes with fame, and it's all because of the Duke of Wellington. Way back when at our old location, we used to get everyone coming in that was playing at Center in the Square. So we had the Trailer Park Boys. They were pretty entertaining. And
I can only imagine.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. They, I swear, the show, they are the same. We had ZZ Top, pretty interesting. Alan Frew from Glass Tiger.
Yes.
Very nice man. Justin Bieber, and I'll tell you, my staff took every bit of cutlery, cup, anything he touched, they took. So. But my favorite is Pete Best. So he was in there, and my husband asked if he could take a picture with him, and his bodyguard said, no, we don't do that. So Billy, because, he has such a great sense of humor, said, hey, got to tell you, great career choice there.
Yeah, I guess you could have done worse, right? Or better, as the case may be.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. So yeah, it's been really it's fantastic. We get so many celebrities in there. You never know who's going to show up. It's a lot of fun.
So great, Desi. Keep up the great work. Good to hear from you today.
You take care, Mike.
You as well. Bye-bye. Bye. Desi and her husband Billy. The Duke of Wellington, longtime proprietors of, and Pete Best famously quit the Beatles because, he could do better than that, I suppose. Gord, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, how are you doing today? Love your show.
Oh, thanks, Gord. I really appreciate that.
So I've been fortunate in my life to meet quite a few different people, but I think the ultimate one for me is, I'll just tell you real quick, I'll do the quick setup on this. I'll try and keep it quick. After 9/11, my wife and I was on a business trip in late September of 2001, and we were out in California. We had actually gone to the Tonight Show, and actually I got my wife into the green room, but that's a separate issue. But ultimately, we went for a walk on Rodeo Drive, as everyone would want to do.
Absolutely.
While we're walking on Rodeo Drive, I'm looking around, and I turned to my wife, and I said, Pam, I said, there is somebody important here, because I said, take a look at all these SUVs. They're all running. They all have light bars in them, and there's people in suits everywhere. So we stopped at, and this sounds corny, but Cheesecake Factory for supper. While she was getting a table, I was standing outside, and there was a bunch of tables. I looked over, and they were clearing a table, and then I looked 2 tables away, and sitting there was Bill Clinton, and he was sitting with another gentleman in a deep discussion. The lady comes out, and she says to me, where would you like to be seated? I said, can we have this table? She said, no problem. So for the next, I'm saying about half hour, 45 minutes, we could see deep discussion. You can imagine, this is right after 9/11. You've got Bill Clinton and this guy talking. And my wife and I, and at the time we had our 6-month-old, our youngest child, Rachel, with us. And we're going, should we go over and get a picture or ask? And I said, no, he's a private citizen. He just ended up being president. He's finished. I said, we should just sit here and take in the moment and leave it at that. So about a half hour goes past. We were waiting, and around us there's Secret Service. All of a sudden, an American gentleman walks up and leans on right outside to him and starts talking about what should we do. And I hate to say he was using some profanity and said we should be bombing places in the Middle East and stuff. All of a sudden, Bill Clinton and this gentleman get up because he's now stopped what's going on, like their conversation. All of a sudden, there's a guy right behind me, and he puts on his arm to his head and says, "The eagle is on the move." At which point, we're going, wow, it was bizarre what was going on. All of a sudden, there's Secret Service everywhere. They get him up, and he starts walking away. And over the last half hour, I had a fair amount of eye contact with him because there was nobody sitting the 10 feet away from each other. So the Secret Service is leading him away, and all of a sudden he stops them, and he comes right to the table where Pam and I are sitting with our baby. And he turns to us, and he says, "It's so nice to see a young couple," and at the time, not that young, but with a baby here enjoying a meal. To which I turned and I said to him, "It's unfortunate that you didn't get a chance to have the dessert. I hear the cheesecake is quite good here." He turns to the Secret Service and says, "Buy a cheesecake. The dessert's on me for you guys." And he gave Pam a hug, patted Rachel on the head, shook my hands, and then he walked away. And I just thought that was a unique life experience that you will never normally get with somebody who's the president of the United States.
You are absolutely right about that, Gord. Fantastic story. Thanks for calling in today.
Yeah, and you have a wonderful day, and keep up this great show you have. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Gord. I really do appreciate those kind words. It means everything. And we're going to do our very best, I promise you that, to keep doing great work on this show. I'm glad you think it is. Paul, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
I'm excellent, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I love the snow, so this is fantastic.
Settle down.
Yeah. So I have a couple of instances. I was born and raised in Etobicoke, and just down the street from us was Johnny Bauer.
Oh, the China Wall.
Oh, he was amazing. Of course, he was a true ambassador for hockey, and we used to go trick-or-treating there. If he left his garage door open, you could see a couple of the goalie masks hanging in the back of the garage, and it was so nice. It was just great. Second instance was much more recently. I was at a KW Titans game last December. It was one of the toy drive nights, and I was standing and chatting with David Schooley. And so we're chatting away, and this gentleman walks by. And so I look at David, and yes, he did confirm that was indeed Mike Farwell.
David is a great guy and a huge celebrity in this town. You're absolutely right, Paul.
And no, you were the celebrity.
Settle down. Don't make me say it to you twice in the same phone call.
I hadn't seen you in person, obviously listened to you a lot, so I got to say I saw Mike Farwell.
I am much better heard than seen, my friend. Well, thank you for calling in and being a part of the show today.
Okay, you take care, Mike.
You as well, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great to hear from you. Having some fun as the Flipside carries over into your Talkback Hour today. This is the Mike Farwell Show. Better heard than seen on 570 News Radio. Today's Talkback Hour carries over from the Flipside half hour every Thursday morning, 11:30. We have some fun with a lighter topic. Today it was brushes with fame because I got an email from Mike who just casually mentioned that he met Henry Winkler while having coffee before a car show in Calgary. I'm like, that's pretty random. And your brushes with fame stories continue to pour in. We're here for them. Love to hear them and have some fun. Speaking of emails, I also got a text from my Uncle Jim. If our good friend Gord Harris and the team at Harris Law, who sponsors our pregame show for Kitchener Rangers hockey, are listening, I think Jimmy's going to need some help. He sent me a picture of him with O.J. Simpson. Didn't tell me the story behind it, but if I know Uncle Jim, it's not a good... No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm sure it's a hilarious story, but there's a picture of my Uncle Jim and O.J. Simpson. I can't wait to get the story out of him at the next family gathering. Or maybe I'll just call him and be a good nephew or something like that. Back to the phones we go. Susan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I also love your show. It's Susan from Sarnia.
Susan from Sarnia, sorry for your luck.
Anyway, this is going back a few years, 1997. We took the kids out to Whistler for fun, and the Edmonton Oilers were dry land there. And we were there at the hotel, and they were getting on the bus, and Mark Messier was getting on the bus, and my 10-year-old daughter who played hockey was obsessed. So we said, go ask if you can have an autograph. And so she went up, and she was very polite. And at the time, Mark Messier was that Lay's potato chips, bet you can't eat just one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then anyway, she had a friend back home that wanted an autograph too. And she said to him, I bet you can't sign just one. And he laughed, and he gave her 2 autographs.
Pretty good opening line.
Pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, made her day.
I love it, Susan. Thanks very much for the call. I just started way too late. I've had it for a couple of years and finally opened it up. Mark Messier's book, No One Wins Alone. Just fantastic stuff. And I'm only about a third of the way through, but just absolutely loving every bit of it. Mike, you're on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'm going to go way back to the 1970s. I went to Our Lady of Lourdes Parish and Our Lady of Lourdes School. The hockey season was over, and there was a father and son Father's Day breakfast. And at that breakfast, I don't know how, one of the priests knew some of these hockey personalities. Our guest speaker was Howie Meeker and Danny Gallivan from Hockey Night in Canada. And being that I grew up in Waterloo, on Roslyn Street, there was Jim Lorenz from the Boston Bruins and the Buffalo Sabres, and Ted Snell, who played for the St. Louis Blues, that grew up on my street.
Amazing.
On Roslyn back then. And they came in too. And then they had a very special guest star, and it was Maurice Richard.
Wow.
I have a book about Hockey Night in Canada that was written way back when, and I have all their autographs, and I still have it.
Absolutely fantastic, Mike. Great story. And some of the great hockey history here in our community for sure. Grant, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, I got 3 stories. One was from, I think, way back in the 70s or 80s. Wayne Gretzky hosted a tennis celebrity thing, and we happened to have tickets right where the celebrities were coming in. So I got to see that fellow from WRKP in Cincinnati, the goofy character.
Which one? They were all pretty goofy, Grant.
Yeah, this guy had black hair, and I can't remember.
Okay. Herb Tarlick, maybe?
Yeah.
Anyway, you saw one of the guys from WKRP at Wayne Gretzky's celebrity tennis tournament.
And I saw Mr. Mike Reno from Lover Boy.
Good one.
And then,
Did you tell him you want to know what love is?
No.
Okay.
Then Center in the Square, they had a contest that you enter your name, you could meet Jim Belushi. So at the time, I still had my house, and I was I was living with Mom, and they said, "I'm sorry, but we've already picked the names, and you were the one to win." Oh, well, you didn't call me. All right.
I lost that for a second there. I thought you were going to see Jim Belushi, but then they didn't call you. I hope you got to see Jim Belushi, and you were working for the weekend or something like that. This is the Mike Farwell Show, your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, 570 News Radio. Open phone lines every day between noon and 1 on the Talkback Hour. And today we've carried over a theme from our 11:30 Flipside conversation about our brushes with fame. Kelly, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike.
What was your brush with fame?
One of your previous callers just talked about Wayne Gretzky, and I completely forgot. I was bouncing through Brantford one day for work, and at McDonald's held the door for Mr. Walter Gretzky. Said, "Good morning, Mr. Gretzky." But the reason I really called was I've had two encounters with the Tragically Hip. The first one was back in the 80s. They were still a bar band and just released up to here. And they're playing at Ballinger's in Cambridge. A bunch of friends went early. We're sitting on the upper balcony level, and there were four guys shooting pool. Unmistakable hair belonging to Bobby Baker. I was telling my friends, that is the band. And nobody believed it. And I went over and talked to them, had a great chat with Gordon and the guys.
Amazing.
Apparently that's one of their things. They always like to shoot pool before, especially in the bar band days. But fast forward in the 90s at another roadside attraction in Markham. And I had tickets for the camping event. The Hip was playing two shows, Friday night and Saturday night. My girlfriend at the time was not interested in the camping but wanted to see the band. So I called all around and ended up lucking out and getting a hotel room at the Embassy Suites in Markham. So Friday night, we're at the show. It's mayhem. And we grabbed a cab back to the hotel, and the bus pulled in front of us, and the boys all got off the band. They're staying in the same hotel.
Amazing.
So really amazing. Pardon me. The next morning, I got Gord and Paul at the lobby. They're actually just heading back out, and they're gracious enough to take a picture. So I've got a photo with them. And Gord wearing his iconic, Save the Human shirt with the big blue whale. So
oh, my gosh.
Definitely a thrill of a lifetime and a lifelong Hip fan, to say the least.
I can understand why. Kelly, those are great stories. Thanks for calling in today.
Thanks, Mike. Love the show.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Ties into more Canadian rock royalty. I don't know about royalty, but this is pretty cool from Andrea via email to Mike at 570news.com. I've been listening to the show today, as I do every day. Thank you for that, Andrea. And I met Gowan in the early 1990s. My college boyfriend was in radio and TV broadcasting at Loyalist College. Wait a minute. Did you date producer Paulie? Was he your college? Our old producer Paulie was a Loyalist College grad. Anyway, Andrea's boyfriend got an interview with Gowan at a show he was doing at one of the elementary schools in the area. He invited both of us in. We sat in the one-piece chair desk, and we were offered chocolate chip cookies and tea. He was so much shorter than I expected. Very nice, very kind, and the whole band signed my Gowan poster for me. I still have it. Fantastic. And I loved me some Strange Animal. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Either there are a lot of celebrities in the world, or you really walk in cool circles as your brushes with fame stories continue on the show today. Mark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you doing, sir?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm the guy that gave you the gears about a month ago about the Titans game, but I just wanted to share. I've had a couple of celebrity encounters, but I just wanted to share my favorite one.
Sure.
Growing up in Kingston, back in the mid-'90s, before the House of Blues, Dan Aykroyd owned a place called the Aykroyd's Ghetto House Cafe. My next-door neighbor was the accountant for them. And long story short, he had tickets to their 1-year anniversary and couldn't go, didn't want to go. He was in his mid-60s at the time. Gave them to me and my girlfriend at the time. And so we went down, and it was, ticket only, small, intimate venue, maybe about 70 people. We're just about to leave, and the lights go down, and it was free food and drinks and stuff like that, and it was just a celebration of their 1-year anniversary. And we're just about to leave. Lights go down. Dan Aykroyd comes out on stage, introduces his best friend, Bill Murray, and the Tragically Hip.
Come on.
And so the Hip played all night, and Dan and Bill walked around and greeted everybody, and Bill Murray was exactly what you would think he is in real life. He was like Caddyshack. He was shirt off over his head. He was dancing. He was sitting at tables. He was mingling. Like, it was just an amazing night.
That is fantastic. Love the story, Mark. Thanks for sharing it.
Not a problem. Talk to you soon.
You bet. Look forward to it. Mark was giving me a hard time when we saw each other at a Titans game because I paid pretty much zero attention to the second half that day. Maybe even the end of the first half. But I made up for it. I've been back since, and I'm going to be there on Sunday. Mark is the second caller to mention the KW Titans. Paul did earlier as well. So Paul and Mark, I hope you're at the odd on Sunday for the Titans game as well. And maybe we can chat, but not too much during the action because we don't want to miss what's going on out there on the court. Doug, good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. I was walking through the Chicago airport, and I passed this guy, and I go, "Are you Bobby Hall?" He says, "Yeah, who are you?" He says, "Where are you going?" I says, "I'm going to fly to Toronto." I says, "Go over there. I'll see you later." And he came over. He sat beside me. I says, "I'm in town to do something to help Tony," which I presumed he knew. I knew what he was talking about, Tony Esposito, and we talked about hockey. I told him that I played. After we landed, we're waiting together side by side, waiting for the luggage. I tell him once that my bag came out once first. He says, "Well, you can imagine all the times I've flown. That's never happened to me." And my parents came to pick me up, and he says, "Were you with Bobby Hall? Do you know Bobby Hall?" I said, "No, I just met the guy." And before he left, he gave me that typical hockey slap in the rear end that they do for each other, and off he went.
Off he went. Doug, that's a great story. I can't believe you didn't tell that on the podcast. That's Doug Keeler, guest on the OHL podcast. I know it's a shameless plug, but you should check it out sometime because it's all OHL information, entertainment, and interviews with former players like Doug Keeler, who won a Memorial Cup with the Niagara Falls Flyers back in the day. Ernie, you're on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. I've been very blessed to meet a lot of my childhood idols and stuff like that, and certain celebrities. But one of the biggest ones was I just moved to the Kitchener area, and this is years ago. And Dougie was coaching their Frontenacs, and I'm like, you know what? I got to find a way to meet this guy. As a kid, I would pray that one day I could meet Doug Gilmore. It was such a big deal to me. And so we snuck into that garage thing at the odd after we went to the game, and then we snuck in the back there. You know, don't get me banned or anything, okay?
Yeah, well, don't give anybody ideas.
So anyway, we got in there, and I was wearing my Dougie jersey, and he stepped away, and he noticed, and he took time to come and say hi, sign my shirt, take a picture. The only problem is, the cell phones were so old back then, I was shaking because I was so starstruck. It was my kid hero, but he was so nice. And I've got to meet him plenty of times after, so it's been great. I got a good picture now with him, but that was just a really a childhood feeling. Like, you know what I mean? When you're a kid, and I was still a kid.
Absolutely.
You know, meeting Dougie, a beauty. Another just running into improv. One that was really neat was, you know, my buddy and I, the girls were shopping at the Great Lakes Crossing Mall in Michigan, and we were at Toby Keith's Bar and Grill because we weren't shopping. It was before kids, so we were licking our lips there at the bar there. And Gary Lehman walked in, and I didn't know it was him, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's Gary Lehman. You know, not a huge star, but 50-goal scorer, right? So I went up and I said hi, and I said, I don't want to bother you from bothering you. Do you mind taking a picture? And he goes, "Why don't you sit down?" So we sat down, we chatted hockey. He had his group of people there. He was going to the Billy Idol concert. And we were talking about, this is the Olympics, right before Stamkos was hurt, and we didn't know if he was going to play. And he was telling us, like, he's really good friends with Gary Roberts, who trained Stamkos, and he said, nobody knows, but he's not making the team. He won't be healthy enough. Like, it's really down low. And I'm like, well, why don't they just release it then? Like, why don't they just tell the press? And he goes, because Stevie Y has St. Louis playing for Tampa, and he wants to light a fire under his butt. Because he was on the cusp of making that team, if you remember that.
That's interesting.
And if DraftKings would have been out back then, Mike, I had the insider info. I could make money on St. Louis making the team. You know what I mean? So, and he also bought us around. Like, he just wanted to, he was cool just shooting the, you know.
I love it.
Over there.
Good stuff.
There we go.
Way to go, Ernie. Those hockey players, small town boys, lots of them, and usually a lot of fun to chat with. My Doug Gilmour story is somewhat similar to Ernie's as being a young hockey fan, idolizing Gilmour as a player, and tried and failed the first time, and things changed over the course of my career. If I have time, I'll get to that before 1, I promise. But I want to hear your stories because they're so much fun. Joe, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Mike. Yeah, I don't want to sound elitist or anything. Or
Too late.
On anybody's.
Too late. You sounded elitist the first time you ever called this show.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I knew you'd pick up on that.
I'm here for you.
Nah, it's sort of anticlimactic for me because I grew up around famous people because of my parents. They were like darlings in 3 different cities. So the parties, the alumni events, the charity golf tournaments, it wasn't just football people. It was, I got to meet like the Jays World Series, bunch of the guys like Cito and Joe Carter. And just because my affiliation with my parents and all the politicians and famous people they knew, Dad actually got offered a coaching job with the Bills when he retired. But no, all those guys, it was one hell of an upbringing, and they taught me how to party. The parties they had, holy crap!
Well, just do me a favor, Joe. Give your mom my best, okay? Because she's such a sweetheart.
She is, and she's a lot more than you think she is.
Thanks, buddy. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, okay, see ya.
Enjoy your day. We'll take a break, come back with more. It's your Talkback Hour, Brushes with Fame on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Hearing all kinds of cool stories today about your brushes with fame, those celebrity encounters. Back to the phones. Marino, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Good.
Many years ago, my daughters and I were at it's called the Sky Dome then. The Yankees were in town, big Yankee fan. We had tickets. So we get on the elevator to go up to our seats, and walking in right behind us on the elevator was the boss himself, George Steinbrenner. Stood right beside us in the elevator, asked the girls who their favorite team was. He seemed really, really nice, but incredible. He was not a big man at all.
Interesting. And yet, like, I would have thought he'd be the guy that's a little standoffish, but he engaged with the kids, eh?
Yeah, he did. Just asked, who's your favorite team? Of course, we said the Yankees, and he smiled, and he got off in the private suites, and we went up to our seats.
Amazing. I love it. Marino, great to hear from you on the show today. Thanks for calling in.
All right, take care, Mike.
Yeah, you as well, my friend. We exchange a number of emails, Marino and I. I like to hear his voice. It's good. Laura, good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. There used to be a bar in Kitchener called Lulu's.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. Well, Hank Ballard and the Midnighters used to play there, and I knew the band, and they invited Chubby Checker to come and play the one time, and we were sitting having dinner. Their backup horn section was the Platters, so we were having dinner together. But what I didn't know is their guitarist, who I kept in touch with for years, was Steve Grogan, who was actually a member of the Charles Manson family, which I didn't find out till 20 years later.
Laura, that is a weird brush with fame. And a kind of creepy one, isn't it?
It is, because his stage name was Adam Gabriel, but his real name was Steve Grogan, and there was an age difference between us. I didn't know who that was till years and years later. I tried to look him up and found out who he was, and so he had just got out of prison at the time.
And when you found that out, how'd you feel?
So we freaked out. Yeah.
Great story. Laura, thanks for calling in today.
Thanks, bye.
Good to hear from you. How about that? I'm glad she didn't get too close. Greg, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Greg.
All right, fame. So I guess, meeting you if that doesn't count, then I guess I'll go to a different story in my repertoire.
Please do.
But, okay. There's a few to choose from, but we'll go with this one. I might have told you this before sometime, but back when it's now Pub on King was Old English Parlor.
Yes.
In the early 90s, there was some kind of charity hockey tournament in town, and at night then the hockey players were just bar hopping, whatever. We heard that like Eric Lindros was down at stages, whatever. But anyways, that OEP was Wendell Clark, Dave Ellett, and Bob Asenza at the time. So my friend and I, we had, warmed up at home kind of thing, and then we went there. So we were already half half there, and then eventually, we're chatting with him. Okay, that's all good. And then eventually, my one friend, he decides to tell Wendell Clark that hockey players make too much money.
Oh, dear.
And Wendell Clark, he goes, hey, if you hear of a hockey player making, like $500,000 a time, first, half that's gone in tax, then you got to pay your agent. And my friend shut up pretty quickly then. But in the end, I remember then at the end, Dave Ellett bought around a beer, and Wendell did, I think, and then Dave didn't want his, so he gave it to me. So I thought, okay, Greg scored a beer, assisted by Wendell Clark and Dave Ellett.
There you go. Greg scored a beer, assisted by Wendell Clark and Dave Ellett. I love it. And I guess your buddy then isn't too upset about how much money the hockey players make since they bought the round. Phil, good afternoon.
Hello, Mike Mann.
Hello, Philip.
Back in the early 80s, when I was in a cruiser in the police force, and it was a winter Sunday morning, and there was absolutely no traffic. And I was doing radar or speed enforcement. And there's basically this vehicle came to my attention going the highway speed still into the city. So I pull it over. It's a brown Mercedes-Benz, Illinois license plates, only one occupant. So I approached the driver, asked him for his driver's license, and he gives it to me. And, of course, back then it was a photo driver's license from Illinois. And I'm standing on the side of the road, and I'm reading it, and it says Robert Marvin Hull. I'm going, gee, this guy must be called Bobby Hull a lot. And I look at him again, and that's who it was.
Of course.
So I went back to the cruiser with his driver's license and radioed in as per procedure. And, of course, everybody else who was working on shift with me decided, well, we're going to drive past and see if it really is him. And it was. So I went back to him, and I basically said, Mr. Hall, apparently they couldn't stop the Golden Jet on the ice, but I managed to do it here today. And he was in Stratford for the purposes, he was a Charolais cattle guy, and there was a show here in Stratford, and that's why he was in Stratford.
Phil, tell me you let him off the ticket.
Yeah, I gave him a warning,
okay.
And I said, to make it official, would you please sign my police notebook? And he said, sure. And he did, and he said, I'll even do better than that. So he hopped out, he went in the trunk of his car, and he pulled out a poster, and he signed it for me. And away he went, and I went into the office for lunch and hung up the poster in the lunchroom. Here's the kicker. The next day when I came into work, the poster was missing.
Wait a minute. Are you saying we can't trust cops, Phil?
Well, there's some you can't, apparently.
And the moral of the story is, thanks for the call and the story today, Phil.
Okay.
All right, stay well. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Afif, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I hope you know this person, but when I was 15, I was in Pakistan, and I saw Shah Rukh Khan. And
Sorry, you met who?
Shah Rukh Khan.
I'm sorry, Afif, your phone sounds so awful today. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, it's Shah Rukh Khan.
I'm not getting it. I'm so sorry.
I'll call you. Let me call you back, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry. I couldn't. I don't know if Colin on the other side of the glass could pick that up, but I could not at all. Shaka Khan. That's as close as I got, and I've got headphones on. I'm sorry, Afif. This is the Mike Farwell Show. Shaka Khan on 570 News Radio. All right, let's get right back to the phones. Afif is on a better line, and it was a Bollywood actor that you met.
Yes, his name is Shah Rukh Khan.
I watch Sylvester Stallone and Will Ferrell movies, Afif, so I'm sorry that this name doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, he's like a big thing in India and Pakistan. So basically, when I was on the airport, he started like coughing, and my mom was like, "Go get him water." So I ran and got him water.
So you saved his life. You saved his life, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Have a good day, man.
Thanks, Afif. I appreciate the call. Oh, boy. When Ernie called earlier, he was talking about sneaking in the back door at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium when Doug Gilmour was coaching the Kingston Frontenacs, because he was a childhood fan of Doug Gilmour, as was I, except I think I'm a little older than Ernie. And so I was in my late teens, early 20s when I was at the height of my Doug Gilmour fandom, and he became, or was at one point, the Grand Marshal for our Oktoberfest parade. And so I was determined, I was in college at the time, I'm getting an interview with my hockey hero. I'm going to make this happen. And I honestly, like that whole day, I'm like, how do I get to Doug Gilmour? How do I get to Doug Gilmour? Find out where he's staying. I go to the hotel. There's a huge crowd already. And I'm like, you know what? He's going to find a way to dodge this crowd. And I sure as heck, it was at the, the Crown Plaza now, the old Valhalla, right? And I figured, I know the side door. That's the one he's going to use. He's not going to come through this crowd. And I got there just in time to see him going down the hall towards the elevators. And of course, being the good journalist that I was back in my first or second year of college, I chased him. Never got to talk to him. Elevator doors closed, and that was it. And my classmates teased me because I got an interview, they said, with Doug Gilmour's feet as I held the camera, and that's all it would shoot was his feet running down the hallway. Years later, fast forward to me having the opportunity to work at Sportsnet 590 The Fan in Toronto. Doug was a regular guest on our show. And over the years, I was there, and he was so frequent a guest that one day I was walking out of the station after my shift, and he was coming in, and he said, "Hi, Mike." And I almost fainted. I'm like, wait, now you know me by name? I went from interviewing his feet to having him address me by name one time when he came into the station. I felt pretty good about that. Achievement unlocked, as the kids would say. All right, we're done for another day here on the show. Lots of fun with lots of great stories. Now you know with Rob Snow is coming up until 3 this afternoon. And tomorrow on our show, the Friday Four Roundtable returns for another year. We'll have a visit with Waterloo Councillor Diane Freeman during council chambers. A new warming centre opens in Kitchener, and more, all coming up on tomorrow's show. Colin Robertson is our guy on the other side of the glass. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.